Without much of a greeting, I start cleaning up. Seeing this, my ex-husband James finally speaks up. "You're not even going to cry, huh?" he says, surprised. I guess he expected me to resist and break down when he asked for a divorce, but honestly, I always thought he was full of himself. He wasn't the only one who had fallen out of love. "Well, you're the one who's going to have a harder time after the divorce, not me," James said, trying to sound confident. Instead of crying, I could barely hold back my laughter. "Huh? What do you mean?" James asked, looking confused. "Between a housewife like you, Kate, and a big shot like me, you're going to struggle. I'm planning to remarry soon, while you'll be all alone," he smirked, feeling sure of himself. "In normal situations, maybe you'd be right, but I know about Emma, the woman you're cheating with. She's not exactly great, is she?" "What? How do you know her name?" James looked shocked. "I'm Kate, a 32-year-old housewife. I met my husband James at a social gathering because we were the same age and had a lot in common. We quickly became good friends, and soon after, we got married." James worked in sales at a trading company and made good money. Thanks to him, I lived a comfortable life without any financial struggles. But there was one big problem: our marriage wasn't going well. It had already been 7 years since we got married. In the beginning, we were in love, always spending time together and sharing meals, no matter how busy James was. But that closeness faded away over time. "Take care," I said one evening. "What about dinner?" "I don't need it. I'll eat out. You can go to bed first. I'll be home late," he replied. "All right, got it," I said, feeling the distance between us. When we were newlyweds, James used to say, "Eating with you, Kate, is the best part of my day." But now, he often came home after midnight, long after I was asleep. He left for work in the morning without talking to me, making me feel like he was avoiding me like a moody teenager. Around that time, I noticed James had started acting differently. Did he always use this hair product? I wondered. Suddenly, there was a whole line of skincare products and cologne in the bathroom. James never used to care about his appearance. He didn't even own many casual clothes, just suits. But now, he was spending money on branded outfits. At first, I thought maybe he was just going through a change. He never cared about his looks, so I didn't mind. But something felt off. His behavior became suspicious. He started using his phone in secret and even took it with him to the bathroom and shower. He used to leave it lying around carelessly, and I'd almost sit on it. Why had he changed so much? I began to suspect he was cheating on me. He was coming home late more often, and I had a bad feeling, but without any real proof. I tried to push those thoughts away. Despite the coldness in our marriage, I still wanted to believe in James deep down. The thought of him cheating scared me. So, instead of facing the truth, I tried to work on our relationship, pretending everything was fine. I tried to talk to James more and suggested we go out together, but every time I approached him, he brushed me off. I guess it made sense. After 7 years of marriage, our relationship had become almost fake. Even though I was trying, his coldness left me feeling incredibly lonely. As things went on like this, I started to feel worn out. One night, I couldn't hold back any longer and finally decided to ask him directly. "Hey, you're not cheating, are you?" James just looked at me and stayed silent. "Say something, are you cheating or not?" After a long pause, without a word, he stood up from the couch and walked over to where I was sitting at the table. Then, he bowed his head and said, "I'm sorry, Kate, I want a divorce." I was speechless. I never expected him to say that, but he continued, ignoring my silence. "I've fallen in love with another woman. I want to start a new life with her." How could he say something so selfish, so easily? What about our 7 years together? I had suspected there might be another woman, but I never thought he would say it so bluntly. All my efforts to fix our relationship suddenly felt pointless. Was the man I fell in love with really this heartless? When we first met, I thought he was the most wonderful person in the world. Now, I couldn't even speak. My mind was spinning with thoughts. And then James said something that made me question if I'd heard him right. "The truth is, she's pregnant with my child. I want to be with her for our baby's future." I felt like I was going to collapse. Everything around me seemed to blur. In our 7 years together, we never had a child, even though we weren't using protection. In fact, we had been actively trying to conceive and even went through fertility treatments. Despite everything, we weren't able to have a child. According to the doctors, James had fertility issues, but he always said he really wanted a baby, even though we knew it would be difficult. we kept trying. I always did my best to meet his expectations. Recently, though, our relationship had lost its spark, and we had stopped trying. Now, it seems the fact that he had a child with his mistress was a big reason for him wanting a divorce. I've always wanted a child, and I want my mom to see her grandchild as soon as possible. You understand, don't you, Kate? Please let me go. Let's get a divorce. His mother had been seriously ill and in the hospital for the past 2 years, so I understood why he wanted her to hold a grandchild, but to have a child with another woman, instead of with me? How awful could he be? I wanted a child too. That's why I went through fertility treatments. I thought we were both dealing with the pain of not being able to have kids. Do you realize how selfish you're being? You betrayed me, I yelled at him, angry, but James just looked down and apologized, like he was waiting for me to calm down. It made me even more upset. What kind of woman is she, just because she's having your baby? I'm not ready to accept this divorce. I pressed him to tell me more about her, but he said, I'm sorry, but I want to respect her privacy. How can you be so selfish? I'm your wife. I have a right to know, I demanded, but even as I kept asking, James wouldn't tell me anything about her. All he said was, she's 2 years younger than you, Kate, that's it. She's an employee? What a joke, I thought. He must really care about her, no matter how much I pushed James. He didn't give me any real details. 4 days, we kept discussing the situation, but I refused to agree to the divorce. I didn't want things to go his way so easily. Throughout it all, James kept bowing his head, saying, I beg you, I don't have feelings for you anymore. What's the point in staying married? Even my mother knows about this, and she's okay with it. Hearing that he had already talked to my mother-in-law shook me. We hadn't been as close lately, but I thought we still had a good relationship. Then James dropped one bombshell after another. I've already given her an engagement ring. We're planning to move in together soon. The only thing left is for us to get divorced. I felt dizzy, like I might faint. James was really serious about being with the woman he was cheating with, but I still didn't agree to the divorce. This back and forth between us dragged on for almost a month. Finally, James lost his patience. One day, he got down on his knees and begged. I can't take it anymore. Just accept the divorce already. Our relationship has been broken for a long time. There's no point in keeping this going. Please, just let me go. He was literally on the floor, rubbing his forehead against it, begging me to let him go. After holding out for nearly a month, I started to wonder if it was time to accept the divorce. She's an employee? What a joke, I thought. He must really care about her. No matter how much I pushed for answers, James wouldn't give me any real details. 4 days, we kept talking about it, but I refused to agree to the divorce. I didn't want everything to go exactly as he planned. Meanwhile, James kept pleading with me, bowing his head and saying, I beg you, Kate, I don't love you anymore. What's the point of staying married? Even my mom knows, and she's okay with it. That last part shook me. He had already talked to my mother-in-law about the situation. We hadn't been as close recently, but I still thought we had a good relationship. Then James dropped even more shocking news. I've already given her an engagement ring. We're planning to move in together soon. All that's left is for you to agree to the divorce. I felt lightheaded, like I might pass out. My husband was seriously planning a future with the woman he was having an affair with, but I still didn't agree to divorce him. This back and forth went on for almost a month. Finally, James lost his patience. One day, he dropped to his knees and begged. I can't take this anymore. Just accept the divorce. Our relationship has been broken for a long time. There's no point in dragging this out. Please, just let me go. He was on the floor, head down, pleading with me. After holding out for nearly a month, I started to wonder if maybe it was time to let go. James's face turned pale within a few weeks after I gathered a lot of information about his mistress. First, her name is Emma. She's 27 years old and has been divorced twice. Currently, she's living with her parents. From what I learned, Emma has a bad reputation. She's known for jumping from one man to another. Even though she has a child with her first husband, he has custody, and she's been banned from seeing the child because she's considered a bad influence. On top of that, Emma isn't faithful. She's been seeing other men, even while involved with James. The private investigator I hired even saw her going into a motel with other men. I made sure to have photos taken as proof. When I showed all of this to James, along with the pictures, he collapsed. No way, Emma can't be that kind of woman. She only loved me. We were planning to start a family. James seemed deeply in love with Emma, And it was frustrating to watch. She didn't stand out in terms of looks, but she clearly knew how to charm men. "This is a lie, you're just trying to shake me up. These pictures must be fake," James protested. "Believe it or not, that's up to you," I said, "but your mistress, oh, sorry, your new wife, has been seeing other men. Maybe the child isn't even yours." James's face grew even paler. "No way, not Emma. The private investigator found this information. James, the chances are high that she's using you. Maybe you're just the one with the most money, and that's why she chose you to marry. Even if the child isn't yours, you wanted one so badly, right? Good luck raising it." That was the final blow. I packed my things and left the apartment. A while later, I got an email from James. He wanted to get back together. As I had suspected, the child Emma gave birth to wasn't James's. When he confronted her, she admitted, "I didn't know whose child it was until after it was born," but since they were already married, James was legally responsible for the child. Emma had only used him for his money. As proof, James had even paid her share of the alimony, giving me a total of $80,000. James was furious and confronted Emma, but she just said, "You seemed happy to take care of me." Then one day, she left the child behind and disappeared. James called me, begging for forgiveness. "You were right, I was deceived. I'm so sorry, can we start over?" I was disgusted. "Do you think I'll come back just because you're saying all these nice things? You had an affair, that's a fact. You betrayed me, accept the reality." I hung up after that. Later, I heard from a mutual friend that James handed the child Emma abandoned over to her parents, telling them to take responsibility, but her parents didn't want the trouble and told him to raise the child. James refused, saying, "I have no obligation to raise a child that's not mine." He even submitted DNA test results to prove the child wasn't his, and revoked his acknowledgement of the child. Emma's parents had no idea the child wasn't James's. After they found her, they took her back home and are now forcing her to raise the child, keeping her under close watch to prevent her from seeing other men freely. Even though James is no longer connected to Emma, he ended up paying me $80,000 in alimony, including the portion that covered Emma. This wiped out his savings. He's been demanding that Emma repay the money he paid for her, but she doesn't care and claims she can't repay what she doesn't have. As a result, James has become a divorced man with no savings. He's struggling to focus at work, making lots of mistakes, and was eventually transferred to a department in a rural area with no chances of promotion. Now, he lives a lonely and isolated life. Meanwhile, I moved back to my parents' house and started helping with their farming business. A few years later, I met and fell in love with a local fisherman, and we got married. We don't have children, but I'm living a happy life with my husband, who is always kind to me.
Can't be serious. What's going on here? Trembling, Robert met my steady gaze as I calmly stated, "I don't know. But since you mentioned divorce, I'll proceed with it. Also, I'll discuss this with your parents. They'll surely understand the truth. My name is Nancy. I'm 28 years old. I work for a company that deals in household goods, in the HR department. I met Robert at a drinking party through a friend. Robert runs a tech business with his parents. I decided to marry him because his carefree nature was a comfort to me, working in an organizational setting. Even after marriage, I got along well with Robert, but his family was a constant source of worry. His parents believed that a woman should join her husband's family after marriage, a view that clashed with my desire to continue working. Every time we met, they would make snide remarks. "Nancy, you're still working? It's shameful for a woman to be out and about. Quit your job and help out as Robert's wife." Jennifer, my mother-in-law, would often summon me to say these things. Dodging her was one thing, but spending my precious days off dealing with her was a significant stress. I enjoy my job, recently tasked with the selection of new hires. I look forward to building my career. The company culture is positive, and while work has its challenges, I don't face unpleasantness. It's not just about the income. I want to continue working. "Why don't you say something to Robert?" When Jennifer tried to involve him, Robert, albeit vaguely, respected my wishes. "If Nancy wants to work, then let her. Dad's still healthy, and it's not like I'm taking over immediately. Let her have her freedom at home." Hearing Robert's words, Jennifer narrowed her eyes in irritation and responded angrily. "You've become quite the outspoken son. Living together is obviously better. God knows what Nancy has told you." Robert sighed in annoyance and retorted, "Even if she helped, it's not like our sales would suddenly skyrocket. Having her work increases our income, which is more helpful." Hearing this, I couldn't deny feeling a bit disappointed, wishing for more affectionate words. However, I appreciated that he supported the lifestyle I wanted. I decided to overlook my feelings and be thankful to Robert. But as the months, half a year, and then a year went by, things couldn't stay the same. Jennifer relentlessly pressed for cohabitation and for me to quit my job. It seemed her fixation on this was strong, showing no signs of compromise. And, overwhelmed with dissatisfaction to the point of madness, she exclaimed, "It's absurd you're so obsessed with working outside. What are you after? Men? Yes, that must be it. While married to Robert, you're losing your head over men at work. How disgusting and shameful." Her baseless accusations and hysteria made calming her down a task, requiring coffee and sweets to manage her mood. Of course, Robert never believed Jennifer's delusions. However, he seemed to grow weary of her frequent outbursts and tantrums, and his support for me waned. "Look, if it calms Mom down, shouldn't we just compromise? Being raged at every time is stressful for you, Nancy. Eventually, I'll take over the business anyway, so quitting and moving in might be quicker than convincing her," Robert mumbled, looking down at the dining table. Finishing his thought, he cradled his head in his hands, sighing deeply. Robert was caught between Jennifer and me, and I could understand his pain. But it shocked me that he had let go of the support he used to give me. "Why? Why would you say that, Robert?" I stopped washing dishes, my voice trembling with tears. "What do you mean, why? You see how Mom acts. I'm tired of being attacked for continuing our life this way. And you must be too, right? After repeating the same for a year, do you still want to work?" Indeed, Jennifer's escalating insults and abuse had pushed me to my limit. But my job was an essential part of my life. I didn't want to give it up. Considering Jennifer's nature, cohabiting could just start a new series of harassments against me. "Yes, but... Robert, you're her son. Can't you talk some sense into her? You said it was beneficial for us if I worked, increasing our income. Don't give in to your mom. There's no guarantee that living together solves everything." Tears welled up in my eyes, but I clenched my fists, trying to hold back my emotions. I felt betrayed by Robert, mixed with sadness and anger. Then, irritated, Robert slammed the newspaper on the table, stood up abruptly, making a loud noise. "Enough. That's old news. Sticking to the same view won't always work out. Nancy, you're stubborn and selfish. Wait. You can't just say what suits you and flip your stance when it's inconvenient. That's dishonest," I retorted strongly as Robert tried to leave. Our day ended with such an argument, leaving me exhausted. I was so drained, I barely managed to clean up before I just went to bed for the day. Why did things end up like this? Jennifer was a problem, but what really hurt was how Robert's attitude had changed. If Robert drifted away, I'd be isolated without any help. Feeling utterly alone, with no one on my side, made me feel incredibly vulnerable. After that fight, things were awkward between us, but a few weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. After feeling unwell for some days and being urged by coworkers to see a doctor, I discovered I was 2 months pregnant. Robert was happy about the news. He also became more considerate of my condition during the pregnancy. If it's a boy, could he be my successor? If it's a girl, I hope she's as cute as Nancy. You're handling both work and house chores now, but it's an important time, and you shouldn't overdo it. I was touched by his kind words. But then, as if on cue, Robert casually brought up the last thing I wanted to hear. How about taking this chance to quit your job? Working while pregnant must be hard on you, and it's a good opportunity. If we live with my parents, my mom can take care of the house, so you can rest. At that moment, my emotions surged. Had he forgotten all the discussions and fights we've had so far, just like that? To say such a thing so easily, with a smile, no less. Don't talk nonsense. This isn't a good opportunity. It's as if you're using this baby we were so happy about as an excuse to make me submit to your family's demands. That's not why we decided to have a child, is it? I'm not quitting my job. As I fired back, Robert looked taken aback, as if he was under pressure. Calm down. Why are you so angry? Quitting a job because of pregnancy is quite common. It might be common, but my company has maternity and parental leave policies in place. I plan to take maternity leave, then return to work once things settle down. Plus, if I quit now, I'll lose all the income during the leave. Robert seemed to drift off halfway through my explanation but snapped to attention towards the end, seemingly hooked by the mention of money. Oh, so maybe quitting after the parental leave ends could work. Let's just take the leave for now and figure out the rest later. With a vague, non-committal tone, Robert said this and looked away from me, continuing to watch TV as if nothing had happened. Seeing his profile as he pretended nothing was amiss, I sighed without realizing it. I hadn't noticed before we were married, but I never thought he'd be such a fair-weather, agreeable man. From now on, I need to be firmer. A few months later, I returned to my parents' home to give birth, wanting to be near my family during this time. I wanted nothing to do with my in-laws or Jennifer around the birth. When I told my parents about Jennifer and Robert, they were very worried about me and even angrier at Robert than I was. People who change their minds like that can't be trusted. You should not stay with him. If this continues, it might be worth considering a divorce. My mom said, her voice low and firm as she wielded the kitchen knife with more force than usual. Even I, who had directly confronted Robert, felt intimidated by her intensity. Thank you. But Robert isn't a bad person as long as Jennifer and his family aren't involved. Once the baby is born, our life will change, and I want to see how things go for a while. When I said that, Mom sighed worriedly. Nancy, it's good that you're patient, but you tend to keep too much to yourself. If it becomes too much, promise me you'll tell us right away, okay? Yeah, I understand. Feeling Mom's strong love, a few months later, I gave birth to a healthy baby girl. We named her Sarah. I continued to live at my parents' house, not wanting to return to a place close to my in-laws, and eventually, after a year, I found a childcare center and planned to return to work. Though Robert did visit to see Sarah from time to time, we never discussed living together or quitting my job again. Actually, both of us seemed to avoid the topic. Mom didn't show her anger in front of me, but quietly pressured Robert. Now that the family is growing with the birth of our child, please make sure to support Nancy and Sarah properly. Thank you. Back in the house with Robert, nothing had changed with him or Jennifer. Jennifer would barge into our house to see her granddaughter, criticizing. How shameful! A woman who has a child and still insists on working instead of living with her husband's family has no shame. And Robert, in his way, would dismiss everything with, let's just see how things go. Parenting comes with its challenges. 2 years flew by. Sarah grew rapidly, now walking freely and starting to talk. I continued to work part-time while Sarah was in childcare, without moving in with my in-laws. Robert had become so accustomed to Jennifer's tirades and my persuasions that he would ignore our arguments, focusing on the TV. I had no expectations from Robert anymore. I hoped that someday, I could convince them on my own terms. One day, Sarah became ill. She was covered in red rashes that seemed to cause her pain or itchiness, making her cry in discomfort. Realizing the severity, I immediately took time off work and rushed Sarah to the hospital. The doctor suggested a blood test as a precaution. And when I mentioned we hadn't determined her blood type yet, they included it in the tests. I thought it was unnecessary, but agreed since the doctor recommended it. The diagnosis revealed that the rashes were due to atopic dermatitis, and she was prescribed specific medication for it. It was a relief to understand the inflammation and how to treat it. But the real issue arose from the blood test results. I am O-type, and so is Robert. Logically, our child should also be O-type. My reluctance for the blood type test was because it seemed obvious and unnecessary. Yet, the result puzzled me. Feeling an inexplicable chill, I returned home and seriously brought up the issue with Robert, discussing Sarah's atopy before showing him the blood type results. Isn't it strange that both of us are O-type, but Sarah is a type? As I hesitantly asked, Robert's complexion changed rapidly, and he shouted in anger.
This means divorce. Nancy, you must have been cheating at work.
Shocked by his terrifying aggression, I trembled.
Wait, this is just a report. It could be a mistake in the test results. No way. You've been having children with another man. Mom said you were obsessed with work because you had a man on the side, and she was right. Pretending to be a career woman, freely mingling with men. What a philanderer.
Robert hurled insults at me with a face red with rage. Amidst the loud and violent shouting, I felt a profound disgust and instinctively closed my eyes. It was heartbreaking to be so misunderstood, and the vile language he used was shocking.
Stop it, don't talk like that. I would never cheat. You know I've been commuting between work and home every day, don't you? Don't you trust your own wife? Trust? There's no trust here. The test results say it all.
Robert screamed, violently slapping the paper with the test results. It seemed we could no longer communicate. I had completely misjudged my choice of partner. I deeply felt the mistake in my choice.
I won't raise someone else's child. I don't even want to see the face of a child born to such a despicable woman. Get out of this house immediately, both of you. And since you cheated, expect a claim for compensation in the divorce court.
Robert's yelling filled the house, waking Sarah in the next room, who started crying. The rash hadn't even settled down yet. Imagine how uncomfortable she must feel. While I was heartbroken thinking about Sarah, Robert forcefully pushed our belongings at us, trying to throw us out on the spot. In a panic, I grabbed our essentials and the medication prescribed by the hospital. Then, at the doorstep, I made one last plea to Robert.
Please listen. It's too baffling not to investigate. If it bothers you so much, let's do a DNA test.
Hearing this, Robert looked down on me with disdain, jetting out his chin.
Fine, do it. It'll just prove your infidelity. Go ahead and hang yourself with your actions.
Once convinced, Robert, showing no willingness to bend, happily offered his hair for the test. Suddenly expelled from the house, we headed to my parents' home, a 2-hour bus ride away. By the time we arrived, I was exhausted. My mom was shocked to see us and furious after hearing the story.
It's just too much. Kicking you out on such one-sided assumptions is crazy. Sure, the blood test results are strange, but we should be working together as a couple to figure this out. You should send such a husband back to his parents, Mom said firmly.
She then tenderly applied medication to Sarah, who was still suffering from the rash, comforting her. It hurts, doesn't it? And it was scary. Sarah, you haven't done anything wrong. I apologized to my workplace and took a leave, relying on my parents' support to care for Sarah. Simultaneously, I sent Robert's hair for DNA testing, awaiting the outcome. Since I hadn't cheated, the blood type discrepancy was baffling. Although I didn't want to think about it, even if Robert had cheated, the child wouldn't have been born to the other woman, so this situation wouldn't make sense. After just over 2 weeks, the DNA test results came in. Together with Mom, I slowly opened the envelope. Inside, the information was surprising. Indeed, Sarah was without a doubt our child. And it also confirmed that I am O-type. However, it turned out Robert's blood type was actually A. I went back to the house we had been expelled from to share this fact. Anticipating conflict, I left Sarah with Mom. "What are you doing here?" "You're the worst." Robert greeted me coldly, but I calmly showed him the test results. His eyes widened slowly as he looked at the paper, and his angry brows fell into a mix of confusion and worry. "It can't be. How is this possible?" Robert had always said he was O-type. Of course, he wouldn't lie about something like that, and he had always believed it to be true. I looked straight at Robert, who was shaking, and said calmly, "Let's talk about this with your parents. The truth will surely come out." Surprisingly, Robert nodded. He had mentioned before that both his parents were also O-type, which might not be the truth. The tension and fear of uncovering secrets about his birth made Robert shrink. He was a completely different person from when he had hurled insults at me. When we went to his parents' house, it seemed Robert had already discussed Sarah's blood type and my alleged infidelity, and Jennifer's gaze was icy cold towards me. "Why are you with that promiscuous woman?" Jennifer expressed her disgust. To her, Robert showed the DNA test results with trembling hands.
"We shouldn't be talking about this. Look at this. You and Dad said my blood type was O, didn't you? Why does it say A here?"
Jennifer slowly took it, scrutinizing the paper with a strained expression. Then, she led us to a back room and seated us on a couch. Sitting opposite us, Jennifer was silent, her demeanor formal. It seemed she had something to say, but she hesitated, biting her lip and looking down. "Mom, why are you silent? Is there a reason? You're O-type, Dad's O-type, so I should be O-type too, right?" Robert, trying to appear strong, was clearly anxious, his hands trembling under the table. "Yes, but..." Jennifer's face lost all its color, turning ashen like a doll's. She winced painfully, her lips quivering in a purple hue.
"Why won't you tell me? Please, the truth."
Despite noticing Jennifer's distress, Robert persisted in his questioning. After a few seconds of silence, Jennifer sighed quietly and began to speak. "There's something I've kept silent about. Robert, you're not actually the child of your dad and me." I gasped at Jennifer's words.
"What? No way! What does that mean?"
Of course, Robert was greatly shocked by the sudden confession. "Before I married your dad, I had a careless affair with another man. Robert, you are the child from that time." Robert is now 30 years old. The realization that the family he grew up with is falling apart must be a tremendous shock. Robert was already shaking.
Does Dad know about this?
When Robert asked, Jennifer looked pained. That expression alone was answer enough.
So, you've been hiding this from me and Dad.
At that point, Robert was so dismayed he seemed almost unable to speak, just staring at Jennifer with a look that was close to tears. Jennifer shed a single tear.
Robert, I truly did care for you as my own, and raised you with all the love a parent could give.
Jennifer had an affair shortly after her marriage and conceived a child from that liaison, pretending the child was her husband's and living a lie as a family. She continued to love her son, nonetheless.
But even hearing that, I can't just accept it. So, was your affair partner a type? Why hide such a crucial thing?
Robert, with tears welling up in his eyes, stood up to confront Jennifer. Probably. Jennifer murmured and then fell silent, looking down. What a revelation. Jennifer's long-kept secret came to light because of Sarah's blood type. Was it fate's cruel play, or a divine punishment? At least Sarah was undoubtedly mine and Robert's child, so there was no role for me in this. I decided to watch quietly, holding my breath.
Can such things even happen? I never verified my blood type with a test. I've been healthy since I was a kid and never needed to. I just believed what Mom said about being O-type.
I really am sorry. At that moment, Jennifer humbly responded. Quietly, the door to the room opened.
I've heard everything.
Standing there was father-in-law Daniel, looking beyond angry, his gaze chillingly cold. Daniel, too, had always been somewhat sarcastic towards me, overshadowed by Jennifer's more overt hostility. His face, usually concerned about his business's future, now betrayed his disappointment in Jennifer for her decades-long deceit.
Is it true that Robert is not our child?
Daniel asked Jennifer in a low voice.
Daniel. You were listening?
Caught off guard by the revelation that her secret conversation was overheard, Jennifer began to panic. While Jennifer scrambled for excuses, Daniel found the test results and scrutinized them.
To have such an indecent relationship with another man. And you've been deceiving me with it until this age.
Daniel's calm facade shattered instantly. He turned red with anger, furiously berating Jennifer.
Don't say it like that. That's so unfair. Robert is our precious son. Haven't we raised him with care all these years? Yes, that's right. Deceived by you, I've cared for another man's child as my own for 30 years.
With a loud bang, Daniel slammed the test results on the table. At his outburst, both Robert and I flinched. Unable to withstand Daniel's fury, Jennifer stood up to argue back.
What's the use of getting angry now? I haven't been in touch with that man anymore, and it's been 30 years. It should be statute barred by now, shouldn't it? There's no statute on this. I never imagined you to be such a promiscuous woman. And the evidence is still standing right here.
Daniel yelled, pointing at Robert. Caught in the crossfire of his parents' argument, Robert was too stunned to respond.
Given this revelation, I can no longer stay married to Jennifer. We're getting a divorce. And you, Robert. If you're not my son, then don't ever come back to our home again.
Wait, what? That can't be true. Amidst the escalating argument between the in-laws, Robert found himself thrown out of the house. Seemingly irrelevant to their dispute, I also left with him, and we ended up discussing our divorce over a meal at a nearby family restaurant.
Look, I get it now. You didn't cheat. It was all a misunderstanding. Sarah is definitely our child, so let's cancel the divorce.
we can go back to living in that house, right? True to his opportunistic nature, my husband now comes with a convenient proposal. It's surprising, really. Feeling disillusioned, I responded indifferently. No way. While the misunderstanding has been cleared, the words you said can't be taken back. The way you spoke to me was unforgivable, not to mention calling Sarah the worst things. I can't stay married to someone who can speak so lightly of us. The divorce will proceed.
Wait, don't talk like that.
As Robert tried to stop me, I gave him a cold smile. Maybe it's for the best, Robert. You wanted a wife who doesn't insist on working or disagreeing with the house, didn't you? You used to stand up for me, but gradually, you just followed Jennifer's lead. I don't need a husband who won't support me. Let's settle the rest through lawyers. Goodbye. I stood up quickly, leaving a bewildered Robert behind in the bustling family restaurant. As I boarded the bus again to fetch Sarah from my parents' house, Robert returned to his parental home only to find that, just as Daniel had said, he was not allowed inside, and of course, he was also fired from the family business. As expected, I received a message stating that the succession plans were now void. I ignored the message and immediately started looking for a law firm to proceed with the claim for compensation in the divorce proceedings. Robert's actions qualified as emotional harassment, enabling me to claim $20,000 in divorce compensation. I received complaints from Robert, stating he was jobless and couldn't pay, but I maintained a firm stance that the amount could not be reduced. Robert had not saved any money, assuming he would inherit the family business and become its president. I knew all too well that he had squandered any extra earnings on alcohol and gambling. Moreover, maintaining the apartment we had lived in would likely be impossible. On the other hand, after being kicked out of her home at 60 due to her affair, Jennifer managed to contact Brian, her past lover, seemingly intending to flee to him. Robert got in touch with Jennifer, and they decided to meet and head to Brian's home together, who was believed to be Robert's biological father. Brian was shocked and greatly bewildered when a woman from his past and an unexpected son suddenly appeared after 30 years. He tried to deny the past, claiming he couldn't remember such a thing and suggesting they might be mistaken. Jennifer insisted on a DNA test, offering to cover the costs. Furthermore, their argument at the doorstep was discovered by Brian's wife, who lives in the same house, leading to the three being interrogated about what was happening. Shockingly, at that time 30 years ago, Brian was already married, and his affair was exposed to his wife, leading to a divorce being thrust upon him in front of Jennifer and Robert. After my fight with Robert came Jennifer and Daniel's argument. And finally, the conflict between Brian and his wife ensued. One dramatic scene led to another, creating a commotion everywhere. During all this, I rented a new room close to my parents' house and started living there with Sarah. I never wanted to return to the apartment I shared with Robert, nor did I want to indefinitely rely on my parents. Afterwards, Mom said, "Robert was odd, and so was his family. Divorcing was the right decision. Let's take good care of Sarah together." She encouraged me warmly. Her occasional help has been invaluable. I apologized to my company for the leave, briefly explained the situation, and requested a transfer to a branch that was commutable from my new home. My previous performance was appreciated, and though the company regretted my departure, my transfer was approved, and I was able to return to work successfully. As I was starting this new life, Mom arrived at my house looking upset.
"Can I talk to you?"
It seemed she wasn't angry with me, so I let her in to listen.
"Can you believe Robert came to our house? Unbelievable."
Mom said this as she sipped the tea I had made, her eyebrows raised in disbelief. I felt a sense of disgust at Robert's pathetic behavior and sorry for the inconvenience caused to my parents.
He said he couldn't pay child support because he was jobless and asked for help, relying on Nancy. When I told him you had started a new life, he begged us for money with a terrible look on his face. It was so bad, we had to kick him out right away.
Mom recounted, finishing her tea feeling relieved. I'm sorry for causing trouble, Mom. When I apologized, Mom gave me a generous smile. It's okay, it's all in the past. I've already warned him I'll call the police if he shows up again, so he won't bother us anymore. Nancy, you need to move on and focus on yourself and Sarah. Mom said this and patted my shoulder. Encouraged by Mom's warmth, I couldn't help but tear up. By the way, Mom is definitely type O. After that, I received messages and voicemails from Robert almost daily. It seems that Robert, Jennifer, and Brian, all ousted from their respective homes, ended up living together out of convenience. Seeing their messages, I couldn't help but laugh at the bizarre combination. However, it's impossible for such a tumultuous group to live together harmoniously. As expected, it seems none of them are getting along well. They turned to me for help, but Mom sent them packing, audaciously asking for assistance. I ignored everything, blocking Robert's account and phone number. Robert's persistence didn't end there. He even showed up at my new workplace. But he never got to confront me. Having shared my fears about being stalked, the company was prepared. As soon as the surveillance cameras caught Robert, alarms sounded throughout the building. Startled by the alarm and the approaching security guards, Robert fled, a scene I watched from the safety of an internal monitor. My colleagues, having witnessed Robert's obsession, sympathized with me and promised to keep him away. Shortly after, an unexpected visitor arrived at my company. Jennifer, supposedly unrelated to me now. Unfortunately, she caught me in the hallway during my lunch break.
I finally found you. Nancy, you need to take responsibility for once.
Jennifer's angry voice echoed in the office hallway. Passing employees looked on worriedly as Jennifer, visibly more haggard and pale, began ranting at me. What? Why are you here at my office all of a sudden? I asked, bewildered. As I was bewildered, Jennifer, who had become significantly more haggard and pale-faced than before, yelled in a shrill voice.
It's obvious, isn't it? If you hadn't investigated the blood type. If there hadn't been a DNA test, none of this would have happened. Your meddling has ruined everything I've built up. Everything is a mess now.
Despite being responsible for her affair and keeping silent about the child she bore from it for over 30 years, Jennifer tried to forcibly shift the blame onto me. Just as Jennifer attempted to grab me, security personnel who had rushed over restrained her. Immediately after, the situation escalated to the point where the police were called. For some reason, Robert was there too, apparently watching from a hiding spot, and it seems they both ended up being interrogated by the police. I wish they would just stop. My new life has begun, and I've completely severed ties with Robert through divorce. Begging for a peaceful life, I went home, only to face a similar situation at work the next day. Just like the day before, someone had infiltrated the office and was waiting in the hallway. This time, it was Daniel who had come. I had never shared my workplace details with him, leaving me puzzled and slightly terrified about how he found me. As our eyes met, Daniel, with a frivolous smile, said, "Well, I know we've caused a lot of trouble in the past. Now that Jennifer and I are separated and Robert's been kicked out, we're actually short-staffed. Considering you were Robert's wife, why not help out at the company as an employee?" "Don't be absurd. I was the wife of Robert, whom you disowned. I have nothing to do with you now. If you're headhunting, please look elsewhere," I responded calmly. At that, Daniel's demeanor shifted from smug to menacing as he aggressively confronted me.
What? You're talking back to me? When you were married to Robert, it was all about not quitting your job and not living together, just doing whatever you wanted. Now, when I'm offering to start over and hire you, you're saying no? The nerve of women these days, all so insolent, it's infuriating.
Daniel's rant continued unabashedly until security and the police arrived, much like when Jennifer had appeared and took him away. With the departure of all three related parties from my workplace, the harrowing days of their uninvited visits came to an end, leaving me relieved and surrounded by concerned colleagues. Finally, peace of mind seems achievable as I dedicate myself more fully to my work. In the aftermath for Robert's family, it appears Daniel employed the reasoning he shared with me, despite the divorce, considering me still the ex-wife of his son, to propose a solution for their dire need of manpower in his business. Robert and Jennifer, facing dilemmas of shelter and financial insecurity, hesitantly accepted the offer of work and a place to stay. However, a family once fragmented by deceit and betrayal couldn't possibly reconcile to function harmoniously. Indeed, neither their domestic nor professional endeavors flourished, leading to daily disputes that resonated throughout the neighborhood, making them pariahs in their community. Nonetheless, they have consistently fulfilled the obligation of the divorce settlement payments. Payments are being monitored through a lawyer, ensuring that any interruption prompts immediate reminders for continuation. Given their current predicament, making divorce settlement payments likely compromises their living standards, leading to reluctant borrowing to make ends meet. Consequently, repaying this debt further exacerbates their financial distress. Caught in a vicious cycle, Robert appears to be exploited for cheap labor at Daniel's company. On my end, life has taken a positive turn. Bringing valuable expertise from my tenure at the headquarters, I've become an asset in my new role. Praised for efficiency and accuracy, I've quickly earned trust and respect from colleagues. Talks of salary increments and promotions are already on the horizon, signaling expectations for my continued excellence. The people here are kind and upbeat, making this a workplace where I wish to stay indefinitely. Child-rearing is progressing smoothly. During the day, Sarah attends a childcare center, and sometimes with mom's assistance, she has grown significantly. Regular hospital visits have gradually improved her atopic dermatitis, bringing some peace of mind. Her earnest stories about her day at the childcare center are irresistibly adorable. Her third birthday is approaching, and Mom and I are discussing how to celebrate it. Though she might not remember it, we want to give her a beautiful, delightful celebration. Mom has recently been busy knitting sweaters for Sarah, pouring her love into every stitch.
I'm going to knit the cutest sweater in the world, so get excited,
she declared with enthusiasm in front of me. As for me, I've taken up baking, whipping up daily snacks while also preparing to make Sarah's birthday cake from scratch. Strawberry cake is nice, but how about an apple pie? What do you think, Sarah? I asked. Our little girl, after a moment's thought, tilted her head and brightly exclaimed, "Apple pie." Her adorable response brought a spontaneous smile to my face. Life might throw challenges at us as we go along. But whether it's work, parenting, or just dealing with everyday life, I believe in facing everything with a smile, taking one step at a time, and trusting the people around me. As long as Sarah is by our side, I'm confident we can handle anything. My daughter Sharon's husband Christopher suddenly said with a sly smile, "I want to take this opportunity and discuss this with you. I had a DNA test taken because I thought she didn't look like me. And it turns out she's not my daughter." Christopher said so, pointing at my granddaughter Tiana, who was being held by Sharon. I made an eye contact with my husband Dylan while Christopher was unable to hide his smirk. I figured as much. I was disappointed, but anger quickly overtook me.
So you've been cheating on me behind my back? You bastard! Were you having an affair with one of the fathers who picks up their kids from daycare?
His raised voice caught the attention of those around us. I felt truly sorry. I still wanted to believe in him.
A woman like this is totally untrustworthy. Divorce. I want a divorce.
Sharon seemed unable to comprehend Christopher's sudden change. Tiana, sensing something was wrong, started crying, and her cries echoing around us. I couldn't believe he was this kind of person. I felt an anger towards him like I had never felt before for neglecting my daughter. Looking over at Dylan, I saw him with an angry expression, fists clenched. This was our only chance. I exchanged glances with Dylan, then took out a photo we had prepared in advance. This photo was our trump card. With hands trembling with anger, I held up the photo in front of Christopher. My name is Violet. I'm a 55-year-old housewife. I live a commonplace life, but I cherish the certain happiness I feel and value the peaceful family life I have. My family consists of my husband Dylan, who currently works at a travel agency, my daughter Sharon, a nursery teacher, and my granddaughter Tiana. We are a family of 4. Until recently, Christopher, Sharon's husband, who's also an assistant director who works at a TV station, lived with us. When he was still in this house, I never dreamed we would end up living separately. Our current life goes back to when I met Dylan. Meeting Dylan was a story from decades ago. Back then, it was common for our marriages to be arranged by our parents. He was 5 years older, in the prime of his career at a travel agency. He had a manly and serious look about him, which left a good impression on me. Due to his job, he was knowledgeable about geography all over the world. I remember him talking excitedly about the charms of various tourist destinations over dinner. Holding a glass of beer in his hand, he said with enthusiasm, "My favorite place is definitely the pyramids of Egypt. It's what I recommend most to customers. The pyramids, made of limestone, used to shine white, reflecting the sun when they were first built." His carefree smile, like a little boy, stirred something in my heart. Seeing him like that, I wanted to sit next to him and hear more. "I would love for you to take me to your recommended places, Dylan." To that he responded with a smile. "Leave it to me." That's how we hit it off, starting a relationship with marriage in mind. Dylan was busy with work, but he always made time for me. His experience in a travel agency showed in how perfectly he planned our dates and trips. I wanted to walk through life with this man. After a few months of dating, I was convinced that we could make a married life work. "Please marry me. I want to see the pyramids with you on our honeymoon." It was an unplanned proposal. He stared at me wide-eyed for a few seconds, then broke into a broad smile. "Of course. Thank you."
"Really?
I'm sorry I made you say it." Thus, having confirmed our feelings for each other, we officially pledged our love at our wedding a few months later. True to our promise, we went to Egypt to see the pyramids on our honeymoon. That scenery will never fade in my mind, even after many years. In the midst of what could be called the pinnacle of happiness, our daughter Sharon was born. Life with a child passed surprisingly quickly, and before we knew it, Sharon had grown up and become a respectable nursery teacher. Sharon, who always loved children, seemed fulfilled, even though she was often busy with the kids at the nursery. Through her work, she started talking about wanting to get married and have her own children. She came to me for advice when she was 26. "Mom, do you remember Nicola from my university? I talked to her about getting married, and she invited me to a party. I'm not sure if I should go or not." Seeing my daughter seemingly exhausted from thinking about marriage and kids, I decided to give her a push. "Well, isn't this a chance? You can trust an invitation from Nicola. Why not just go and see?" Sharon looked somewhat anxious, but eventually decided to go. And so the day of the party came. Sharon left the house wearing fancier clothes than usual. Her makeup, different from her normal style, seemed to be done with extra effort. Dylan and I had dinner alone for the first time in a while. As we ate, Dylan seemed restless. "What's wrong? Wasn't the dinner good?" I asked half-jokingly, and Dylan replied awkwardly.
"Of course not. I'm just a bit worried about Sharon. I hope she doesn't get deceived by some strange guy."
I felt the same way. After all, I was the one who had encouraged Sharon to go.
"I guess so. But it's Sharon, she'll be fine. She has a good eye for men. After all, she takes after me in that regard. I guess you're right."
I think we both were trying to mask our anxiety with laughter. Then, a few hours later, Sharon returned. When I asked how it went, Sharon said with a smile,
"There was a great guy there. A really great guy."
And she kept repeating how he was a good person. Whether it was from the cold air of January or the excitement of finding someone, her cheeks were flushed. "What kind of person is he?" Dylan asked, and to that Sharon proudly replied,
"He's part of a TV crew. His name is Christopher. He goes on location shoots and visits all sorts of places. I went on many trips with you too, right? So, we hit it off."
Upon hearing this, Dylan frowned slightly. "A TV crew, so he's in the entertainment industry, right? I don't have a very good impression of that. How should I put it? Didn't he look a bit frivolous?"
"But you're the one who said, men who travel to different places and see various sceneries are trustworthy. He had black hair and didn't look frivolous at all."
"Well, I did say that, but..." I calmed down Dylan, who didn't seem convinced, and told Sharon,
"Anyway, make sure you date him properly and take your time to find out what kind of person he is. It's late now. You have work tomorrow, right?"
I urged Sharon, who seemed quite drunk, to go to bed. After that, Sharon and Christopher officially started dating. Their relationship seemed to be going well, and Sharon introduced Christopher to me and Dylan. Christopher, being in the entertainment industry, initially seemed elusive. But after talking to him, he turned out to be very personable. So when they brought up marriage, I genuinely agreed.
The best thing is to respect Sharon's choice.
Thus, they continued their relationship smoothly and got married 2 years after meeting. Christopher, wearing an undoubtedly expensive suit, came to greet us formally. He held a bottle of high-end wine in his hand. I was genuinely happy for Sharon's marriage. Sharon's face, brimming with happiness, made it clear she was at the peak of her joy. Thinking back, that might have been the happiest time. Christopher, looking confident, addressed Dylan.
"I've brought some wine. Let me pour you a glass."
Dylan, albeit awkwardly, accepted it. The meal continued in a good atmosphere for a while. It was when the bottom of the wine bottle Christopher brought started to show that the mood changed.
"You're in the entertainment industry, right? Frankly, I still can't trust you."
Dylan's words made me freeze. The room suddenly became quiet, the atmosphere tense. I didn't want to ruin this happy moment.
"Hey, why are you saying such unpleasant things all of a sudden?"
I sharply said to Dylan. Sharon then spoke up.
"That's right. What are you talking about, Dad? That's just prejudice. It's terrible that you can't trust the person I chose."
Dylan's frown did not ease even at Sharon's words. Christopher tried to maintain a smile, but he was undoubtedly upset. The evening ended with an awkward atmosphere. After Christopher left, a sober Dylan sincerely apologized to us. Indeed, Dylan's opinion was nothing but a prejudice. Sharon's smile had proved Christopher was a good match, which was evident. Gradually, seeing our daughter's happy smile, Dylan began to accept Christopher. They were supposed to have pledged eternal love at their wedding. They were supposed to be in love. Now, I regret not listening more to Dylan's concerns. As Sharon was approaching her 30s, she announced her pregnancy. Both Dylan and I were overjoyed. Dylan, like when he talks about tourist destinations, awaited the grandchild's birth with a childlike smile. And I too, got too excited for my age. You two are getting ahead of yourselves. Then, at Sharon's request, she and Christopher decided to move in with us. We thought it would be better for everyone to live here together. We were saying you guys would surely be happy living with your grandchild. That's true. You both have jobs, right? Leave the caregiving to Grandma and Grandpa. Don't worry. Their belongings had already been moved from the nearby apartment where they had been living. Everything was prepared for the whole family to live together. Tears welled up as I thought about my daughter's growth and the upcoming birth of my grandchild. As we had these conversations, Sharon's belly grew. Christopher was still busy with work. I understood his job, but I wondered if he couldn't be a bit more supportive of Sharon. As for Sharon, being on maternity leave, she spent most of her time at home. I asked about Christopher's work. Sharon, rubbing her belly, defended him.
Christopher is busy. He's always on the go. But he calls every day to say good morning and good night. We're even thinking of names for the baby together. Hoping for a beautiful girl.
Oh, we'd love to help pick a name too. Sharon smiled, savoring her happiness, as she listed a few name options. As the due date approached, Sharon decided to name the baby Tiana. The moment Tiana was born, her vibrant cry was indescribably precious. Sharon's relieved expression. Tears in Christopher's eyes. Dylan's beaming smile. And Tiana, trying her best to breathe. I was confident that our lives were solid and would continue to be so. However, the happy future I envisioned never came to be. At the height of my daughter's happiness, I was shocked to learn a disturbing truth from Dylan. He had confirmed some unbelievable behavior from Christopher. I didn't want to doubt him. He was supposed to be the perfect husband for my precious daughter. Despite my uneasy feelings, Dylan, with a serious expression, insisted.
I saw it with my own eyes. I know it's hard to believe Christopher's suspicious behavior. Violet, you might not want to know, but it's true. That man is lying. To us and to Sharon.
I had never seen Dylan so emotional in over 30 years together. From his unsettled state, I learned everything. Dylan's seriousness made me realize the gravity of the situation. But it was too much to accept all at once. Why would Christopher do such a thing? What about Sharon and Tiana? My heart pounded, wishing I hadn't heard this truth. I wanted it all to be a lie. Especially since Tiana had just been born. Since Dylan told me, a swelling rage grew inside me. I felt the greatest anger of my life. I didn't know what the right answer was, but it was for Sharon and for Tiana. Reluctantly, I decided to follow Dylan's plan. Then we quietly began our preparations, just the two of us. Meanwhile, Tiana continued to grow. A month after her birth, we decided to go out as a family. The attendees were me, Dylan, Sharon, Christopher, and Tiana, 5 in total. I heard Christopher had planned this outing, which was a great surprise. He had arranged everything, including the meal. Dylan and I carefully prepared for the day. Upon arrival, Sharon lovingly watched Tiana. After taking a family photo with Tiana at the center, I wished for these peaceful days to continue. I glanced at Christopher. He wasn't looking at Sharon or Tiana. Although smiling, Christopher's attitude and tone seemed detached, as if preoccupied with something else. Then Christopher suddenly said with a sly smile, I want to take this opportunity and discuss this with you. I had a DNA test taken because I thought she didn't look like me. And it turns out she's not my daughter. Christopher said so, pointing at my granddaughter Tiana, who was being held by Sharon. I made an eye contact with my husband Dylan while Christopher was unable to hide his smirk. Just as I thought. I was disappointed, but quickly anger overwhelmed me.
The test results show that Tiana is not my child.
His shout drew the attention of those around us.
So you've been cheating on me behind my back? You bastard! Were you having an affair with one of the fathers who picks up their kids from daycare?
I felt a deep sense of regret. I still wanted to believe in him.
A woman like this can't be trusted at all. Divorce. I want a divorce.
Sharon seemed unable to comprehend Christopher's sudden change. She just froze and couldn't move. Sensing something amiss, Tiana, held by Sharon, started crying. Tiana's cries echoed throughout the area. After a moment, Sharon, with a look of astonishment, confronted Christopher.
What do you mean? Why would you say that all of a sudden I haven't cheated?
Christopher answered with a smug look.
You say you haven't cheated, but can you provide any concrete evidence right now?
I can't provide that, but I really haven't.
Ah, so you're making excuses. I have irrefutable evidence here.
Saying this, Christopher showed us the DNA test results and a divorce application. The test results indicated that there was no proof of a parent-child relationship between Christopher and Tiana. Half of the divorce application was already filled out. He had prepared all this. Sharon, faced with this evidence, couldn't say anything, her face on the verge of tears. Her lips were tightly pressed, enduring the pain, and my heart ached for her. Who could have imagined she would be treated this way?
The results show that she's not my child. A cheating woman made a child with some other man, and the DNA proves it. Sign the divorce papers quickly. If you resist, I'll take you to court and demand compensation.
Then Christopher, who had retracted his smile, spoke in a low voice.
Hey, I've got a good lawyer. You can't escape, so be prepared.
It's incredible how far he could take this act. This was the man he turned out to be. I felt a rage towards him like never before for neglecting my daughter. Glancing at Dylan, I saw he was angry too. Now was the only chance. I exchanged glances with Dylan and then took out a photo we had prepared in advance. This photo was our trump card. Holding it with trembling, angry hands, I presented it in front of Christopher.
If you're going to do that, we have something to present as well. Right, Dylan? Yes, indeed.
Dylan pulled several photos from his jacket pocket. They were photos of Christopher's infidelity, obtained by hiring a private investigator. Each photo was decisive evidence, but we had prepared multiple.
It's necessary to confront him thoroughly with irrefutable evidence. How come these are here? What's this?
In each of the several photos, Christopher was clearly visible. There were pictures of him walking arm in arm with an unknown woman, entering a hotel with a woman, and kissing a woman on the street, among others. Since the day Dylan confirmed Christopher's suspicious behavior, we had been investigating his actions with a detective. The skill of a professional detective is astounding.
So, you were regularly meeting another woman, planning to switch from Sharon to her? Who's the one cheating, I wonder?
Dylan also started yelling as well.
You bastard! Trampling on Sharon's feelings.
Christopher's smile had vanished, replaced by an unmistakable panic.
How did you find out? No, wait. This is fake. You made these composite photos to slander me, you liar. Sharon's the one cheating.
His voice was low at first, as if reassuring himself, then became accusatory, threatening us. But my anger was beyond control. Dylan, as if echoing my fury, shouted.
You're the one who is lying. Are you saying all these photos are fake?
Perhaps feeling overwhelmed by Dylan, or realizing his excuses were futile, Christopher suddenly became quiet. Dylan, although sometimes seen as unapproachable, hardly ever raises his voice. I realized for the first time how intimidating he could be when he was truly angry. Dylan took a breath and began talking in a quiet manner.
My discomfort wasn't mistaken. You might not have noticed, but I heard everything from the bathroom. Those overly suspicious conversations. Things like I'll manage the separation smoothly or help me forge the DNA report. I didn't intend to listen, but such conversations are obviously strange. You've been deceiving and hurting our daughters all this time.
Dylan had accidentally overheard Christopher's phone conversation while he was in the bathroom. Dylan had been close to the door without realizing Christopher was there. And then Dylan raised his voice again.
We're going to do another DNA test. Science will prove it. The second test should yield the same results, right? You'll take responsibility for what you've said. Don't even think about running away.
Christopher's legs wobbled, his nose running, reduced to a pitiable state. Tiana, tired from crying, had fallen asleep. Was he always such a pathetic man? I remembered his sharp, robust appearance when he first came to ask for our daughter's hand in marriage. That man was nowhere to be seen now. At that moment, something snapped inside me. Sharon must have felt the same. Her eyes brimming with tears, she looked at Christopher with a mix of disgust and pity. I rubbed Sharon's back. I wanted to believe in you, if only I could. I sighed heavily, but now that the truth was revealed, Christopher could only apologize. His pride gone, his apologies seemed too late. Then, as Christopher was profusely apologizing, Sharon approached him. With tears in her eyes, she lashed out at him angrily.
Don't joke around. It's too late to apologize now. Get out of our sight. You're the worst.
Christopher's apology was cut off by the sound of a sharp slap. It felt like a satisfying sound that dispelled the terrible atmosphere. After receiving a powerful slap from Sharon, Christopher collapsed to his knees. He tried to flee but seemed unable to move, his legs giving out.
As you wish, we'll part ways. Goodbye forever.
Christopher received the stares of everyone around. Urged by Sharon, Dylan and I left the scene. Sharon didn't look back, not even once. According to the detective's investigation, Christopher's affair partner was an ex-girlfriend. The reason they broke up was apparently because he was a part-timer with low income at the time. Back then, Christopher was juggling part-time night shifts at a grocery store and stocking shelves at a supermarket. Later, Christopher joined a TV crew, and during a street interview for a TV program, he happened to meet his ex-girlfriend again. It was a wide show hosted by a celebrity known for his sharp tongue. His ex-girlfriend seemed impressed with Christopher, who had made a place for himself in the entertainment business. By this time, Sharon was already pregnant. Both wanting to rekindle their relationship, the ex-girlfriend was quite cooperative with this plan. Such a hopeless situation, I thought. Now that I knew the whole truth, my anger was replaced more with disappointment. On the way home, none of us spoke a word. If even we, as parents, were deeply hurt, Sharon's emotional wounds must be immeasurable. In the heavy silence, Dylan broke the ice.
Hey. You should just rest for now. I'll take care of all the tedious things like the compensation claim and other procedures with Violet.
Sharon just nodded silently. I also spoke to Sharon.
Your life is still ahead of you. For Tiana's sake, eat delicious food, get plenty of sleep, enjoy beautiful scenery, and just focus on resting. We'll always be here to support you.
Sharon was still struggling to come to terms with her feelings. But with Tiana there, we had to move forward. Few months passed by, but Sharon tended to stay at home. Given what had happened, it was understandable. Yet gradually, she regained her smile and declared,
If I keep mourning, Tiana's going to get mad at me. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry for worrying you so much. I'm thinking of returning to work soon.
As for the compensation, Christopher and his party ended up paying $15,000 each. It was a deserved retribution. And Christopher was dramatically dumped by his ex-girlfriend. She was furious about the large sum of money lost because of him.
That's a fitting end for such a man,
Dylan said with a face that couldn't hide his disgust. About half a year later, in a season of blue skies, Sharon successfully returned to work. Worried, I secretly visited her workplace. My concerns were unnecessary, as I saw Sharon lively and happily working surrounded by children. I told this to Dylan, and to that he proudly snorted.
I told you there was no need to worry.
Though he had hesitated to come with me till the last minute. Hearing Dylan's words, I couldn't help but laugh, feeling our happy daily life returning. Despite everything, our family had regained peaceful days. Tiana was growing up healthy. Dylan, now past 60, was still actively working. Today, I'm preparing a meal for a family dinner. After setting the table, I said to everyone,
"Let's go on a family trip again. Anywhere, as long as we're together." "Absolutely. Anywhere we go will be fun."
At that moment, Tiana made a sound as if replying. Her incomprehensible babble was enough to bring a smile to Sharon's face. We all smiled in response. "Dad and Mom, live long, okay? I want to show Tiana the wide world. Just like the old times, I hope we can travel together again. Of course, I plan to live long. Right, Dylan?" "Yes, indeed. Maybe it's time to cut back on the alcohol." Dylan went to put the beer he had prepared back in the fridge. I too thought about starting walking myself to stay healthy. With these 4 people, I felt like we could do anything. I want to continue spending my days in this house, unchanged. Because I know there is certain happiness here.
My husband is cheating on me. Apparently, he's been showering his mistress with designer goods. What's more, he used my credit card for these extravagant purchases. I've put up with it for our son's sake, but I've reached my limit. I can't forgive this. I have to do something. The one who came to my aid was the last person I expected. My name is Flora, 35 years old. I've been married to Adam for 10 years. Our beloved son Dominic turned 8 this year. Always having loved reading, I'm now living my dream as a novelist, my chosen career. My mystery series gained a significant following, allowing me to secure several monthly serials. Thankfully, my standalone books are also selling well, keeping me busy every day. Initially, my husband had a job, but the moment I started earning, he quit. For the last 2 or 3 years, he's mostly lounged around at home, occasionally going out to play pachinko. Yet today, unusually, he's changed into a suit. Something's not right. Why the suit? I decided to boldly ask my husband. "Adam, it's rare to see you in a suit. Where are you going?" My husband's eyes widened in surprise, but he quickly returned to his usual tone and said, "A job interview." "A job interview? For what?" "Well, it's obviously for a job, right? I thought it might be time for me to start working again." "I see. Good luck." "Yeah, I'm off." At that moment, I genuinely believed he was going for a job interview. I thought that with our son still so young, he had reconsidered his priorities for the future. However, my husband didn't return home until 1 a.m. that night. I happened to be awake because of a looming deadline. Reeking of alcohol and perfume, he fell asleep on the living room sofa. In his hand was his smartphone, unlocked. Out of sheer curiosity, I peeked at my husband's phone. "What? What is this? I can't believe this!" To cut to the chase, my husband was cheating on me. What's more shocking, his affair was with my best friend, Delphine. It seemed like they had been to a fancy restaurant with a beautiful night view that day. The shock was like a dull blow. It was too much. How could Adam cheat on me with Delphine? Why? Doesn't Delphine have a husband too? I trusted them both. The unexpected reality hit me, and tears welled up in my eyes. Knowing I shouldn't wake my husband, I stifled my sobs. Evidence. Yes, evidence. For now, I sent the evidence of the affair to my own phone and decided to think about the next steps. The next morning, I casually asked my husband, who was acting as usual, "Hey, Adam, about yesterday." "Yesterday?" "You know, you said you had an interview, but you came home late. I was just wondering what happened." Then my husband averted his eyes, showing signs of thinking up an excuse. "Actually, I ran into a friend after the interview. We ended up going for a drink." "A friend? Who?" "Some guy you don't know, Flora. Do I need to explain everything?" "Yeah, you're right." As expected, my husband concealed the fact that he had met with Delphine. His affair was clear from this attitude as well. 1 month after discovering my husband's infidelity, I was still lost in confusion. Until now, I hadn't confronted my husband about the fact he was cheating. Once I bring it up, it's clear that a crack would form in our relationship. If I was alone, I would have confronted him with the evidence of his affair and divorced him right away. The only reason I didn't divorce him was for our son, Dominic. I couldn't bring myself to take his father away from him at the tender age of 8. Afterwards, my husband started going out frequently, taking advantage of me being busy with work in my room. However, this was also an excellent opportunity. While he was out, I decided to gather evidence of his infidelity. What I found in his room were several unfamiliar receipts. Apparently, he had been buying women's designer items. But there was nothing like that in his room. And of course, I hadn't received anything. There was only one conclusion I could reach. Adam, you've been lavishing Delphine with designer items. But where did he get the money for that? He's jobless now and living off the allowance I give him every month. There's likely no savings left. Concerned, I decided to follow him. During that time, I would call my brother over to watch over Dominic. Of course, my brother didn't know about my husband's affair. I lied to my brother. Bro, sorry for calling you out of the blue.
Nah, it's fine. But what's up? Suddenly asking me to look after Dominic?
Actually, I really want to go shopping alone.
Shopping? You've never been much of a materialist. Don't you usually shop online?
Well, that's true. But today, I want to buy something that's only available in the store. So, can you please look after Dominic?
Well, alright. But don't be too late, okay? Dominic gets lonely.
Yeah, thank you. Thus, with my brother's cooperation, I successfully managed to tail my husband. Right now, he's walking arm in arm with my best friend, Delphine. I knew it was happening, but seeing it with my own eyes was a shock. The two of them cheerfully entering a high-end designer store. And then, I saw something outrageous. No way! Is that my credit card? Indeed, the card my husband used to pay the bill was my secondary credit card. I always keep my main card in my wallet, but the secondary one was left in a drawer. He took it without my knowledge and used it to fund his gifts. Over the past few months, I've been buying new work tools like monitors and keyboards and even new furniture, so the amount on the credit card has skyrocketed. Both cards are linked to the same bank account, and because I've been busy recently, I haven't checked the details carefully. This came back to bite me. I can't believe it. Not only was he cheating on me, but he was also freely using my money. Any love I had for my husband had completely cooled off. Of course, I was at fault for not noticing, but I still couldn't forgive him. I took clear pictures of the two of them in the act and returned home. For the next few days, I was engrossed in thinking about how to get back at my husband. I checked his usual use computer multiple times when he wasn't around. Since he syncs his smartphone and computer, I can easily check his and Delphine's exchanges on the computer. Soon, I found out that the two of them were going on a trip during the upcoming long weekend. A 4-day, 3-night trip to Okinawa. Yep, this is my only chance. I decided to execute my revenge plan to coincide with my husband's affair trip. But there was one problem. That was the presence of my son. It would be difficult to carry out this plan without my son finding out about his father's infidelity. I decided to rely on my brother's help again. Hey, bro, sorry to ask again, but could you look after Dominic for me during the upcoming long weekend?
You mean for the entire 4 days?
Yeah, I have something I need to do.
Something to do. Huh.
He says with a meaningful tone. Just as I was feeling uneasy about my brother's attitude, he firmly said this.
Flora, stop trying to handle everything on your own.
Bro?
Adam's cheating on you, isn't he?
What? How did you know?
I heard it from Dominic.
Huh? Dominic? Even though he was still a child, my son had noticed his father's infidelity. I don't know if he understood the concept of infidelity, but he knew that his father was becoming close with someone who wasn't his mother, and that this was causing his mother pain. It seemed that Dominic, in his own childlike way, had noticed this. But I thought I was hiding it well from Dominic. How?
It means Adam has hurt you so much that even Dominic could see it. Are you still planning to be with a man like that?
But if I divorce Adam, Dominic will be upset. As soon as I muttered this, my son, who was supposed to be in the next room, appeared. It's okay, Mom. I'm on your side. Dominic, are you sure? I don't need someone who makes Mom sad. As long as I have Mom, I'm okay. Thank you, Dominic. And thank you too, bro. And so, thanks to my son and brother, I was able to make up my mind to get revenge on my husband without any hesitation. We started moving to a new place on the day my husband was leaving for his affair trip. My brother helped us, and we secretly packed while my husband was away. Then, on the night before the long weekend, I decided to give my husband one last chance. I asked him, who was excited about his trip starting tomorrow, straight to the point. Adam, what's with the luggage? Why are you preparing a suitcase?
Oh, this? Actually, I'm going on a trip with a friend from tomorrow.
A trip? Did you mention anything about that?
It's a sudden decision. Who cares? I'm going with the budget of the monthly allowance I get.
Wanting to avoid further questions, my husband was emitting a "don't talk to me anymore" aura. But I couldn't care less about his situation. I questioned my husband in a voice lower than I've ever used before. Hey, is it really with a friend? My husband was visibly shaken, his shoulders twitching. Still, he desperately lied.
Of course! You've been nagging me!
I see. That's nice. A trip with a friend. Have fun.
I was gonna have fun even if you didn't tell me to.
Well, just don't get too carried away, okay? Leaving those words, I exited my husband's room. Honestly, if he had confessed the truth here, I was considering just asking for alimony and child support and settling things amicably. Even though he cheated on me, he was someone I once loved. When my novel didn't sell, it was because of him that I could keep going. I didn't want to hate him or resent him from the bottom of my heart. However, I can't afford to be so composed after what he's done. For the sake of my son and for my future, I have to put an end to my relationship with that man. There's no need to hold back any longer for a man who keeps lying. The next early morning, my husband had already left for his trip. I opened the drawer and confirmed that he had taken my credit card as usual. I immediately contacted the credit card company, reported the loss of the card, and requested a stop to its use. My son woke up and I greeted him. "Good morning." He responded with a wide smile.
Mom, it's today, right?
Huh?
The move! We're going to our new home today, right?
Seeing my son's sparkling eyes, the last bit of anxiety I had disappeared. Oh, Dominic. All right, I've stopped the credit card. Let's move to our new home.
Yeah, that's right! I'm excited for our new home!
With my brother's help, our move went smoothly. My son and I moved our things to the new house, and my husband's things were sent off to a certain place. The next day, while relaxing at the new house with my son and brother, I received a call from my husband. Hello?
Is that you, Flora?
Do you need something?
Well, actually, I've ended up spending more than I thought. Could you transfer me just a little bit?
He probably couldn't use the card because I'd suspended it and was having trouble paying for things on his trip. He was asking for money indirectly without mentioning the card, which was disgusting. You said you were going to stay within your allowance, right? Sorry, but I can't afford to lend you anything.
Don't say that. I can't enjoy the trip alone if you do that.
Alone? Don't you mean for two? At that question, my husband let out a dumbfounded, "Huh? You wanted to show Delphine the sights on your trip, right? But too bad. The card you took is no longer usable, so give it up."
Whoa, what are you talking about, Flora? Who's Delphine? What about the card?
It's useless to feign ignorance. Actually, you're too flustered.
It's because you're saying things I don't understand. I don't know anything about the card.
That's enough. It's already out that you cheated on me with my best friend Delphine.
Huh?
Did you actually think it wasn't exposed? Are you stupid? It's so obvious.
No, this isn't what it looks like. It's not cheating.
I was extremely angry at my husband, who was still trying to make excuses. Not caring that my brother and son were around, I let out all the anger I'd been holding in. Don't make excuses. You had a family, but you had an affair with another woman. And you even used someone else's card. Do you realize how low you've sunk?
Flora, let's calm down.
Calm down? How am I supposed to stay calm when dealing with the person I hate most in the world? Let me tell you, I have no intention of forgiving or helping you. I hope you and that woman you cheated with fall straight to hell. Don't you dare show your face in front of me and Dominic ever again. I unilaterally hung up on my husband. Then I got a call from Delphine, the woman he cheated with. What the heck, Flora? What have you done? Ah, Delphine. Long time no see. How's the trip with your best friend's husband? Shut up! Explain yourself first! What are you talking about? Don't play dumb! You sent Adam's stuff to my house, didn't you? Indeed. During the move, I had sent my husband's belongings to Delphine's house, the woman he had an affair with. Since Delphine was married, her husband was naturally at home. That's why I purposely sent all of Adam's belongings to her husband. I included a long letter explaining the situation, and yelled at her over the phone, almost cracking the speaker. Are you kidding me? What have you done? My husband found out, and he's furious. Isn't that natural? You're having an affair even though you're married. To think my best friend would do such a dirty thing. You're the worst. I am so disappointed. Excuse me? I think that's my line. My best friend was cheating with my husband. You think I would forgive that? Who was the one who did the disrespectful thing first, even though we were best friends? I wasn't serious. It was just a fling. There's no way I would settle for a jobless loser like him. Whether you were serious or not is none of my business. I'm getting a divorce soon too. Either way, the fact that you had an affair is true. I will never forgive you. I'll demand the maximum amount of compensation, so be prepared. Compensation? What? I didn't hear anything about that. Isn't it natural? You did something worthy of it. Wait, I'm a housewife. I can't pay compensation. I don't care. You can figure it out yourself. Or maybe beg your husband, although I guess that's unlikely. Wait a minute, Flora! Hey, wait! Goodbye. I hung up the phone without letting her speak and blocked her contact. After that, I finalized the divorce through a lawyer and demanded compensation from my ex-husband and Delphine. I demanded child support plus the amount he spent on the card without permission. Delphine, burdened with debt from paying the compensation, was served divorce papers by her husband and was apparently kicked out of their house. He tried to rely on his family home, but the circumstances were what they were. After being swiftly turned away, he's apparently now living in and working the night shift. He tried to rely on her, but she flipped out, blaming him for ending up getting divorced. She quickly cut off ties with him, and their relationship naturally fizzled out. As for my ex-husband, I hear he's now juggling several part-time jobs and just scraping by day to day. For someone who's been unemployed for a long time, finding a decent job won't be easy. Of course, if he ever falls behind on the compensation or child support payments, I'm determined to collect it by any means necessary. As for me, my son and I are living a peaceful life in our new home. My son is growing up so fast, and every day is truly fresh and exciting. I hope to continue pouring a lot of love into him without causing him any sadness.
My name is Kim. I'm 45 years old and I've become a health geek as I've started to feel back pain when I get up from bed, so I've been trying my best to run and eat healthy. Come to think of it, for the past few years, I've made only one wish when I pay a visit to a shrine on New Year's Day. May I stay healthy. In the past, I used to make a wish like, may I get along with the boy in the next class. I can feel my age from even the most humble of places. Today, I would like to talk about the time before I became a health geek. I hope you'll listen to it. Let me take you back 10 years ago. I was 35 years old, as cute as an idol, and everyone would look at me when I walked down the street. I'm sorry, that's a lie. I wish I looked like that back then. During that time back then, I quit the company I was working for and was guarding my home as best as I could. My brother, Scott, who is 2 years older than me, said to me, "I'm going to get married," and brought a beautiful woman to our house. I was really impressed by her captivating beauty. It's like she was shining. She was wearing heavy makeup and fake eyelashes. Fake eyelashes were made to make the eyes look bigger, but there were also glitter on the tips of her lashes. Her lips were glistening with gloss. To be honest, I was worried that she might catch a fly or something. Her hair was loosely curled, which gave it just the right amount of loose texture, and her nails were so finely designed that one could tell at a glance that they had been done at a salon. This is a pro. She's not one of those girls, that's for sure. At that moment, the house felt like a nightclub, I thought. My parents were probably a bit puzzled as well. My prediction came true. The woman, Remy, and my brother had met at a bar. My brother told me that he had seduced Remy, who was a lounge girl, as if it were a fairy tale, but I don't think that it was his skill at all. My brother is rich enough to be recognized at a glance. What do I mean? He's covered from head to toe in name brand clothes, which I tell him not to do because it's tacky. Glasses, suits, ties, pins, belts, shoes, everything name brand. If such a rich looking guy were to make a pass at me, I would be like, I'm not interested. I would fold my arms and say just that. A brand name wallet covered in jewelry. Then there's the Amex card that comes out of the wallet. I can imagine a brand new Gucci wallet and an Amex card coming out of it. Then I would show my beautiful smile just for you. And it's not right that my brother, who was born without our mother's sense of style and whose only merit is his kindness, could have a girlfriend like that. Oh, come on. I'm so prejudiced against both my brother and Remy. It's rude, I thought to myself. But it was also true that I couldn't shake off the image of Remy's flamboyant appearance, which I didn't think she had come to greet me for marriage, coupled with the fact that she was wearing a revealing miniskirt. Moreover, I learned from my brother for the first time that day that Remy was only 20 years old. I was 35. I had no idea that I was going to have a younger sister-in-law. I already didn't know how I should behave. Remy-chan? No. Sister? My head was in turmoil. My mother said, 37 and 20? My father said, if my son chooses. His face was like a samurai that heard his son chose to join the war. Scott may or may not have known of our embarrassment. I'm going to marry Scott, so please take care of me. Remy laughed in a nonchalant manner. We were stunned from start to finish as we literally received only a marriage report, without any lively conversation from Remy. One night later, my brother said to me, I'm sure you must have felt embarrassed, and I understand how you feel. I want you to come to a dinner party with me and Remy next time. If you just relax and talk to her, you'll see that she's a good girl, he said. It is true that we have fixed our impression of Remy by her appearance and the way she speaks. Maybe she is a good girl if we talk to her. I didn't talk to Remy much yesterday. I was not keen on the idea, but I decided to get to know Remy properly for the sake of his happiness. My parents seemed to feel the same way, and with the agreement of everyone in the family, a dinner party hosted by Scott was held the following weekend. Surprisingly, the mood at the dinner was friendly from start to finish. When you think about it, Remy is a lounge girl. In other words, she is in the hospitality business. She had the skill to draw out good conversation even from people like our family, who were a bit more reserved. She would talk about Scott and other topics, so we never lost track of what she was talking about. From the outside, Remy gave the impression of living in a different world from ours. I was prejudiced. I'm sorry. I reflected on that. Then, a problem arose when I was about to return to my seat after leaving the restroom at the restaurant. No, they were all really plain, especially his mother, with her face full of spots and wrinkles. I really can't take it like that. I don't want to grow old like that. I thought they were rich, but their house was normal. I really think I married him too soon. I'm afraid that I won't be able to stand his father, who is too much of an old man. I think I'll make up an affair and get a divorce as soon as I can. My future sister-in-law is older than me. She's too old to have a boyfriend. She's fat and a neat. She's so stereotypical. I've got to get out of here before I'm told I have to take care of him in the future. Has my prejudice gone so far that my eyes and ears have gone crazy? I am. Remy, My future sister-in-law is happily talking bad about our family with her cell phone in one hand in the aisle. Because of that, I couldn't go back to my seat. What should I do? What are you talking about? Should I say that? Or should I keep quiet? While I was agonizing over this, the phone call seemed to have ended and Remy went back to her seat. I returned after a short pause and wondered why I should care. Before I knew it, the dinner party was over and I wondered whether I should break the friendly mood. After that, Scott continued to hold many more dinner parties until the very last minute before the wedding, out of his strong desire to make Remy a member of the family, both in name and in reality. Our parents began to enjoy them. Remy's reputation skyrocketed. Everyone was surprised, and the atmosphere among the family members toward her was great. I didn't record Remy's phone call. I didn't even hear the other person's voice. In addition, Remy is a very good girl in front of my family. Her acting is so good, I probably would have believed her if she told me that phone call was a misunderstanding or a mishearing. Even now, I wonder if I just misheard her. I can't help but wonder. He's still my big brother after all. What should I do? I spent many days scratching my head. Then one day, I received a message from my brother. Remy wants to go out for dinner with you. I'll pay for it, so don't worry. He pointed to a map of a certain restaurant. It turned out to be a rather expensive Italian restaurant. I was happy to get free meals, but why did he choose only me? I'm scared. But Anit, with so much time on her hands, has no reason to refuse. So I went to the Italian restaurant. Kim, thank you for coming. I honestly did not feel bad when Remy recognized me and welcomed me with great joy. I always thought that she was very good at making people happy. I thought I must have misheard her on the phone. However, as the meal progressed, I gradually began to feel uneasy. Kim, it's been quite a while, but you heard my phone call, didn't you? Yes? At our first dinner party, I went back to my seat and you came right back, but the woman who went to the restroom after you came out from behind me at the same time as you. There's only one women's restroom there. You didn't go in there together, did you? Remy laughed as she said this. Oh my goodness. I'm being watched so closely. Indeed, if I recall, I think women went into the restroom while I was listening to the phone call. To be honest, I don't remember much because I was panicked by the content of Remy's call. Speechless and unable to pause, I took a mouthful of pasta in front of me. Food takes precedence over chatting. You're getting fatter and fatter, aren't you? She laughed at me. You're trying to provoke me, aren't you? I was aware of it. I knew it. Don't tell Scott or your parents about that conversation, okay? Remy laughed as she said this. As a side note, I gained weight because I was working for a bad company, which destroyed my life and caused me to overeat due to the stress caused by unreasonable pressure from my boss. At one point, I was petite and skinny, and now I gained weight because I was always putting something in my mouth to relieve stress. It's true that I'm fat, but now that I'm taking care of my mental health, I feel like I can open up and say, what's wrong with being fat? If I were a sumo wrestler, I wouldn't think it was bad, but I'm not a sumo wrestler, and I'm even bigger than the standard weight of one. I'm just fine with my size, because it's important for me to be able to live a non-stressful life. Remy has no right to tell me what to do when I'm not bothering her in the first place. Since you've heard this story, you already know that you and your mother are a little embarrassing. You understand, don't you? No. I've been told I'm embarrassing time and time again. I get it. I wouldn't say my thought out loud. I just imagined that I was somewhere else. I can't tell your mother-in-law not to come to the ceremony, but Kim, you're honestly my sister. You don't have to go. It's hard to move when you're fat, isn't it? I'll send you a wedding invitation as a formality, but I'd rather you not attend the wedding because you have other plans. Oh, and don't worry. I'll get your congratulatory gift. $1,500? I should even get more from you than that. Do you really think Anit has such important plans that she has to cancel attending her brother's wedding? There's no such thing as too fat to move when I've come all the way to this restaurant. I calmed down the desire to plunge my clenched fist into Remy's face. I understand. I'll be absent as you wish. I don't care about anything. And with that, I left the restaurant. When I got home, I told my mother, I'm not going to Scott's wedding, I said, and my mother replied, What's the matter with you all of a sudden? My mother panicked, and my father said, What's going on? My father wondered. Remy told me that she'll take the congratulatory gift of $1,500 from me and asked me not to come to the wedding. Fat people are embarrassing. I summarized a bit, but it was the same thing. Really? Remy said that? My father and mother, who could not hide the puzzled look on their faces, as if to say, I can't believe it, but I can't believe my daughter would tell a lie. I understand, because I've been feeling the same way as you right now. But listen to this. I gently placed the recorder on the table. Yes, we were eating alone this time, so I had it with me just in case something happened. I wanted to have proof this time. When Remy asked me if I had been eavesdropping on her phone calls, I turned it on. When my parents heard the recording, they turned pale, angry, red, and negative 100 times. After hearing everything, she mocked my family. My father yelled and slammed his hands on his desk. I told him that I was wary of Remy because she had said something similar at the first dinner party. He brought a nasty wife. My mother's head was in her hands. No, she's not his wife yet. My brother hasn't registered his marriage yet. My parents looked at me with surprise. I see. No, but what about the wedding? If we offer to cancel it, isn't Scott the one who will ask for a cancellation fee? My father said anxiously. Don't worry, I have a good idea. I won't let you lose a penny, I replied emphatically. We then split up and called Scott's invited guests one by one to inform them to cancel their participation for the wedding. I set up a web-based recording of the call so that the people who would be attending would know what had happened. Of course, I could have told them what had happened verbally, but I wanted those who didn't believe me to be able to listen to the live audio. It's not obvious at first sight, but it is obvious at first hearing. On the phone, we apologized for being lenient in our choice of wife and for getting everyone involved, and sincerely told them why we didn't want them to attend. I would be lying if I said I wasn't anxious. It would be like exposing the family's pettiness, and I was afraid that no one would listen to such an outrageous request, and that I would be disowned by my relatives. But when I picked up the phone and said, my parents want to help their precious son, and we know it's selfish of us, but please help, surprisingly, everyone agreed with us. You can't let him marry like that. I was even scolded. He was right. In the end, we managed to inform everyone about the situation and get them to not attend the wedding. We told the wedding hall that due to a series of circumstances, the groom's side would not be attending, except for people from his business whom we did not have contact information for. We were sorry to have caused so much trouble. If that's the case, then there's nothing to be done about that. I was able to convince them. I think it was more like the heart of the person in charge was moved, rather than the consensus of the wedding hall. I may have given them a hard time behind the scenes, but I will surely remember this kind gesture. Next was Scott. 3 weeks before the wedding, I told him that everyone would not be attending. He was stunned after I told him everything about Remy. I understand, he said. If my brother thinks he wants to get married no matter what, this plan would fail, but that's my sister's instinct. I'm sure he'll be fine. Finally, late on the night before the wedding, a storm broke out at our house. What's going on? Remy stormed into our house with her parents. Scott was behind them. Oh, Remy, what's wrong? My mother said, as if nothing was wrong. What do you mean, what's wrong? Suddenly this week, the number of calls saying they won't be at the wedding slowly increased. I thought it was strange, so I asked Scott about it, and he said that his family won't be there either. What is this on a beautiful day? That's as it should be. We had asked everyone in the wedding hall to cancel their participation early, but we had told them to notify their absence at the last minute. If I had at least kept quiet about the phone call until the wedding, the ceremony would have gone off without a hitch, but Remy went out of her way to contact me. I was convinced that her character, which is unexpectedly reserved and acts immediately when she gets an idea, would be exposed by making me feel rushed. You said that this family is embarrassing. You didn't want his parents to come to the ceremony either. I just told it like it is, and all the relatives decided not to go, okay? Don't lie to me. How could you try to ruin such an important day with a lie? The number of attendees is less than half. What are you going to do about it? Remy's father and mother were half crazy. Poor Remy. They hugged her close. What do you mean by this? Do you mean you want to break up the marriage? Remy's mother glared at us sharply, but that was not for us to answer. Scott, I don't think so, but are you just going to stand there the whole time? I asked him, but he looked as if he didn't know what he should do. Oh, what do you want to do? The most important thing to remember is that you are the one who has to decide what to do. Do you want to get married? At my words, my father said, "I don't approve," he said, but I restrained him. It was important to let Scott give his own answer so that he would have no regrets. This is the woman he vowed to marry. This is her true nature. She's an evil woman. I can understand why it would be hard to believe right away, but my brother is not a man without judgment. I believed in him. I loved Remy, and I really wanted to marry her. You see, Scott's also saying this, so you freaks should look at the situation properly. Remy, thinking she had my brother's words behind her and perhaps loosening up, unintentionally called us "you freaks." My brother seemed to have noticed the change and laughed sadly. Oh wow, I'm really not a good judge of character. I've never been in love, so when I thought I was going to marry a beautiful girl, I got all excited. That's because you have a track record of being unattractive for your entire life, but you keep your expectations too high. Look in the mirror of reality. That's right. The blood of unattractiveness runs in my family from the generation of my great-grandfathers who passed away. This family has been unpopular for generations. You too should be proud to be unpopular. Hey, I was never unpopular. Mom, don't lie to us. My parents and I were torturing Scott. He laughed. I'm glad I had a good relationship. Even if it was only for a while, I've made up my mind. I'm not going to get married. At that moment, my parents' expressions brightened, and I gave them a high five. Wait, what's going on? You can't just decide on your own and then yell and scream about it with your family? Remy shouted angrily. That's right. The wedding is tomorrow. Please take this more seriously. What is this family embarrassment you've been talking about? It was Remy's mother who asked me that. Finally, this question came. It was like a gut punch. Well, if she hadn't come to me, I would have just told her myself someday. But it's more likely to resonate with the other person if she is interested and asks me. If I tried to force them to listen, they would just ignore me. Why, thank you for asking. Let me show you why the wedding is cancelled. I played back the audio. Remy's parents' faces gradually turned pale as they listened to the audio. This is why. But Remy was strangely calm. I've heard her say many things about our family in addition to this recording. That's why I was the only one called on this day. And the fact that she herself mentioned it in the audio as the reason why she wanted to see me is the best proof of that. To my words, Remy said, "It's fake." And Remy's parents shook their heads. I'm sorry. My child is entirely to blame. It was Remy's father who spoke up first. I was trying to raise her in a carefree way, but it seems I gave her too much freedom. I'm sorry for causing you trouble. Seeing the father bowing deeply. What? Remy was upset. Wait a minute, Dad! Why are you apologizing? You apologize too. Without a pause, it was Remy's mother who raised her voice. I had no idea that you had become such an insultingly rude girl. I came to your house because I believed in you, and you have brought me so much embarrassment. Don't make me apologize to the family's father. What? What's wrong with you? Even you, Mother? Aren't you on my side? At that moment, Remy's father slapped her cheek with a loud smack. That's enough. Since when did you become such a shallow child? Don't forget that you even ruined Scott's life. Behind Remy's father, Scott was blurting out an extremely heated statement. I'm not going to get married anyway, so my life won't be ruined by this. Don't let her ruin anyone else's. I almost laughed at him. The fact that he was responding more openly than anyone else somehow felt like it was in our family's blood. Scott, I want to let you and the rest of your family know that I am truly sorry about this. Remy's father forced her to bow her head, and her mother bowed her head as well. As if that wasn't enough, Remy's father and mother got down on their knees. Look up! We were so impatient that we said that to them right away. No, I didn't know I was being so rude, but I am ashamed because I didn't know. I can't make amends by humiliating you like this and causing you trouble. The only proper apology is to get down on my knees. To be honest, I didn't feel humiliated, but I could feel Remy's father's thoughts painfully. Let's cancel the wedding. What? Dad? The wedding is already tomorrow. We'll have to pay the cancellation fee in full. So what? You should be thankful that you can settle it with money. You did something that you don't deserve any amount of forgiveness. You should be thankful to your family for exposing her, Scott. Remy's father yelled at us with red eyes. Remy's mother turned her head down in embarrassment. I am so sorry. She bowed her head again and again. Wait a minute! Wait! Dad, I can't pay! We'll pay. You pay us back, no matter how many years it takes, and we'll never see you again. Are you kidding me? She pulled on her father's clothes frantically. Hey, why am I being kicked out? Dad, say something. Mom! Remy shouted. If you were a girl who understood that, you wouldn't be in this situation. If you knew what you were doing, you wouldn't have let this happen. Remy's mother looked at her with deep contempt. You're kidding. Remy slumped down on the floor in a heap. I chuckled inwardly at this unexpectedly violent turn of events. I wouldn't be surprised if she was disowned. Even if you're plain or fat, you at least have fangs to fight. Don't underestimate us, or you'll be in a lot of pain. Scott, and your family too. As for cancellations, don't worry. We'll pay for the cancellation and all the money you've spent up to this point. I almost smiled, thinking that it was being helpful, but then I put on a serious face. Thank you very much. I bowed my head. My parents' faces were also flustered, so I tried not to say, Yay! I couldn't understand what they were trying to say. Scott, taking advantage of the fact that Remy and her family could not see him, expressed his joy with a small amazing without making a sound. I know how you feel, but you're the only one who didn't do anything, so calm down a little, I thought to myself. After that, less than a month after the cancellation of the ceremony, Remy's parents gave us $22,000 as a consolation payment, which was the sum of the money spent up to this point, including the betrothal money, in addition to the confectionery money and the cancellation fee. As for the fee, Remy's parents said it would be very difficult if we had to go to court, and we would have to pay the court costs, so Remy's father told me that he would give the price he asked for. We were honestly troubled by the price, but we thought it should be a reasonable amount, so we offered an average amount in the market. However, what Remy's father actually gave us was the amount we had specified, plus $11,000. To be honest, I don't know if we would have received this amount even if we had gone to court. I'm sure that there would have been a lot of crying and stress, because it usually doesn't work out like a fairy tale. I would like to thank Remy's parents for their sincerity. The girl in question was evicted from her home penniless after her parents took all her savings to pay off the debt. She said she had been living half homeless, moving from one friend's house to another, and camping out at train stations when she can't find a place to stay. Her parents seemed to have come to terms with the fact that it was their daughter's own fault, and it didn't matter if she was put in harm's way. I think that her parents have finally started showing her tough love. I have told her to show her face once a month to repay the loan, so I can confirm her survival. How complicated it must have been for her parents during that situation. 10 years have passed since then. He married his wife, who was not flashy or dazzling at all, but was an excellent cook who worked at a Japanese kappa restaurant. Since Scott loved to eat and walk around, she must have literally grabbed him by the stomach. Since getting married, he rarely eats out, but flies home to enjoy his wife's delicious cooking, and I honestly didn't want to work for a company anymore, so I became a freelance translator. I was already somewhat familiar with languages from my previous job, where I had been involved in sales and marketing to foreigners. When I learned that freelance translators were in demand, I studied hard and was able to successfully achieve my goal. I'm now earning a significantly larger annual salary in a much looser environment than when I was working for that bad company. What was also lucky was that when I was immersed in my studies, my overindulgence completely retracted, and I returned to my lowest weight before I started working. I'm no longer fat or skinny, but average. Well, I don't know if average is something to be proud of. I don't know if I'm proud to call myself average, but I'm very happy to be back to my normal. And thanks to my translation work, I married a beautiful looking husband from England, if I do say so myself. When I introduced him to my family, Scott said, "You're cheating," or "You won't fall for the plain gene in you." Needless to say, I was told a lot. My husband, holding a picture of the Japanese novelist Murasaki Shikibu in one hand, said, "Kim's face is very Japanese. I really like Kim's Japanese-like face," he said. In case you're wondering, my husband did not offend me at all. He was really complimenting me. It's a complicated situation, but since my husband liked me, I think it's okay if I look like Murasaki Shikibu. My daughter is now 4 years old, and although we live in a strange house where English and Japanese are mixed together, it is a very lively and happy life. Speaking of worries, my daughter's bedtime reading is a picture book of the tale of Genji, one of Murasaki's novels. I thought, how can she sleep with this? I wondered if this would help her sleep, but surprisingly, she seems to like it, and today she fell asleep peacefully.
Next customer, please come this way. The cash registers were getting crowded, so I quickly opened the one next to me and guided customers. After a while, the congestion was resolved, and I returned to stocking shelves. Mary, you're amazing for being able to ring up customers so quickly. The person who spoke to me was another part-time employee. In this supermarket, there are high school students and many people of the same age group as me, so I enjoy working here. My name is Mary. I'm a 45-year-old part-time housewife. I've been working at this part-time supermarket for about 10 years. When my child entered elementary school, I decided to find a job and applied for a part-time position at a local supermarket that was recruiting. There were many housewives like me, and the manager is also a parent, so it's a good environment that understands child rearing. I've been working here for 10 years. Before I knew it, I became one of the oldest part-timers. There are more familiar faces among the customers, and many people greet me, and I get along well with other part-timers and part-time high school students. However, I never expected that something like this would happen. One day, we were told that our manager, who we all appreciated, was being transferred, and we were all disappointed. But the manager was transferred to the headquarters, which seemed like a promotion route. He was competent, so it was inevitable. Although it was a shame, we all congratulated him on his promotion and sent him off. The next manager was from the headquarters and did not know much about the field. No one mentioned it, but being a manager from the headquarters seemed like a demotion. He was nagging and incompetent, and the atmosphere in the store deteriorated. According to other part-timers, the president's wife seems to favor young, handsome managers. The manager probably thought that he could benefit from being liked by the president's wife. I often saw him talking to her. The new manager's reputation was bad, but the president's wife was the worst. She complained about every part-timer. However, she talked to male employees and high school boys working part-time with a sweet voice. Although we part-timers were dissatisfied, no one dared to complain to the president's wife. Eventually, some part-time housewives and student part-timers started quitting. Just as I started considering looking for another part-time job, I became the target of the president's wife. You've been working at the store for a long time, right? How about your child? Already a college student? Which college? I was surprised to be asked such a question suddenly. Yes, I've been working here since the previous manager. I didn't want to talk about my child, so I tried to dodge the question. Then, the president's wife said this. You look incompetent. You probably didn't even go to a decent college, did you? That remark hit me in the heart. But just then, the register area got crowded, so I nodded to the president's wife and quickly got in line. Actually, I only graduated from middle school. I was bullied in high school. Tried my best to hang in there, but eventually couldn't go anymore and quit during the summer of my third year. Since then, I'd been living as a part-timer, met my husband at a part-time job, got married, and lived in a world completely unrelated to educational background. But the president's wife seems to be the complete opposite of me. She brags about being a graduate of a prestigious university, even when nobody is listening. But for some reason, she stubbornly refuses to mention the name of the university. I thought it was strange, but since I wasn't particularly interested, I always let it slide. The president's wife probably had a preconception that housewives working part-time at a supermarket don't have high educational backgrounds. In fact, I once heard her talking about it with the store manager. Does she want to look down on us? Other part-timers also said they were asked about their education by the president's wife. The next day, as I was working as usual, the president's wife came to the store again for some reason. "Excuse me." I looked up when the president's wife addressed me. She looked down on me and laughed, as if something was funny. Somehow, controlling my irritated emotions, the president's wife opened her mouth. "You're a middle school graduate, aren't you? I didn't think you went to college, but I never thought you were just a middle school graduate. It's amazing that you can work with that kind of educational background." I wondered where she heard that from, and remembered that yesterday the store manager was checking part-timers' resumes in the office. I thought the manager should know about the employees, but I guess that information went to the president's wife. Knowing that I was a middle school graduate, the president's wife told other employees about it for some reason. Frankly, it was annoying. I had no intention of faking my education, but I couldn't understand the nerve of someone who would go around saying that I was a middle school graduate. My part-time colleagues didn't seem to care and acted as usual, but since then, the president's wife would always bring up that I was a middle school graduate. "Maybe you wouldn't understand since you're a middle school graduate. Since you're a middle school graduate, at least do some cleaning." That was the president's wife's catchphrase. I don't have to work here to be told things like that. That's what I started to think. A few days later, the president's wife appeared at the store again. Just seeing her made me irritated. As I sighed and tried to walk past her, she was smirking at the cardboard box storage area. It was a place where we didn't go because the supplier would come to pick up the boxes. But for some reason, the president's wife seemed to be trying to make me clean it up on purpose. She said, "People like you should be covered in garbage. You bottom-dwelling middle school graduates are just salary thieves." This was the back room, away from the customer's eyes. I had always been able to bear it because I was usually approached in the sales area, but that day, I couldn't hold back my pent-up anger. "Excuse me, but I think I'm working for the salary I'm getting. I'm working properly, and education doesn't matter, right?" The president's wife looked a little surprised, perhaps not expecting to be talked back to. "Why don't you be a little helpful to the store if you're here? We never know what you're doing here. Are you just here to look down on us? You must have a lot of free time." I continued without caring about the other employees passing by and entering my field of vision. The president's wife glared at me. "Huh, I'm like a lowlife like you. I'm busy. I'm taking time out of my busy schedule to come to this store." "Is that so? Then what are you doing at the store? You're just chatting with the manager, flirting with the male employees and male high school part-timers, and looking down on us, aren't you?" As I calmly stated this, the president's wife's face turned bright red with anger. "Just by being here, I make the store more lively, don't I? You should be more grateful." I couldn't help but laugh at her words. Do you really think that? None of us employees or customers think that way. It's interesting how there are people who have educational backgrounds but are useless in the field. I vented all the resentment I had been harboring from being looked down on. The president's wife must not have expected to be told such things. She could only come up with cliched retorts. "Do you think you can work here after talking to me like that?" So I responded without hesitation. "Then I'll quit." The president's wife laughed at me mockingly. "It'll save on our labor costs." I returned the smile. "Yes, that's right. Good for you." I then headed to the locker room. When I entered the locker room, the part-timer who had passed by the scene earlier was there, and I told her everything that had happened. "Mary, are you quitting?" She was sad because we had been working part-time together for years. Ever since the manager changed, it hasn't been fun, and it's like we're only working out of obligation, right? Many people have quit, but they don't hire more staff because it's a waste of labor costs. So our workload keeps increasing. I can't do it anymore. I guess that's true. I left the locker room and went to where the manager and president's wife were talking. Then, that's a quick story. Seeing me, the president's wife laughed. "I heard that the junior high school graduate is quitting here. I wonder if there's a place for a junior high school graduate to work." The manager also laughed, so I told them off. "Even if I have nowhere else to work, I won't come back here. I'll return the uniform next week. Thank you for everything." I felt strangely refreshed as I left the supermarket. The following week, when I went to return my uniform, the store was noisy. The manager seemed to be getting scolded by several customers. There seemed to be a commotion near the cash register. Maybe there was a mistake in the transaction. The customer's anger seemed extraordinary. However, there was nothing I could do since I had already quit. So I went to the office to leave my uniform. As I approached the office, I heard the president's wife's voice. Reluctantly, I opened the door and saw the former manager there as well. "Manager!" Even though he was now working at the headquarters and not as the manager, I accidentally called him that out of habit. The former manager seemed to have been talking to the president's wife, but she quickly left the office. "What happened at the register? There seemed to be some trouble." The former store manager tells me that there have been a series of complaints at the store lately. It seems that after I quit, other part-timers and part-time students all decided to quit at once. The manager was apparently working on the sales floor, but he didn't know how to stock shelves or operate the register, so he received complaints from customers. Today's incident involved the president's wife, who was talking to a male employee on the sales floor, and a customer mistook her for an employee and asked her a question. "I don't know anything about that." The president's wife apparently brushed the customer off. The manager then appeared and accidentally revealed that she was the president's wife, making the situation worse and causing more complaints, while the register area became very crowded. At this time, all the part-timers had quit, so employees and the manager who don't usually work at the register had to do so. And there were many mistakes. The register was so slow that customers started getting irritated, and it seemed the manager was being scolded. The former store manager asked me why I quit, so I answered honestly. He then told me that he heard that the president's wife did not graduate from college. He didn't know the details, but had heard she was a high school graduate. So what was that educational condescension about? Could it be that the president's wife is looking down on people with the delusion that she is highly educated? That made her seem even more dangerous. 2 weeks later, the supermarket where I used to work was deserted. It was unusual for so few customers to be there at this time. Well, it's not surprising after all those complaints, as I was thinking that, I was approached from behind. It was the former store manager. After exchanging greetings, he told me about a new store opening 1 station away. "Mary, would you like to work there?" It seemed an employee the former manager had trained was being promoted to the new store manager. I could trust that person. I nodded and contacted my former part-time friends. When my part-time job at the new store was confirmed, some of my former part-time friends were there too, which made me feel relieved. The manager was understanding, and I felt like I could get along well with the other employees and new part-timers. The new store tried something different, handling local side dishes and bread, which was well received by customers. I began to see familiar faces from the previous store, and the new store had a successful start. According to the employees, the old store was very quiet, and the manager was scolded quite a bit at the head office meetings. Many people quit soon after being hired as part-timers, and there was always a shortage of staff. I found a new part-time job quickly, and since I was able to work happily like before, I thought everything was settled. However, about a month after starting work at the new store, the president's wife appeared before me. Well, she's the president's wife, so it wouldn't be strange for her to be at any store. But she seemed to have come specifically to see me. I heard a junior high school dropout is working at our store again, so I came to check. I could only sigh. What's wrong? I'm not doing anything bad. Do you realize that because of you, the other store is in big trouble now? Why is it my fault? I didn't do anything wrong. Rather, isn't the president's wife the one committing power harassment? You made all the other employees quit, didn't you? The president's wife suddenly got angry. It's completely unreasonable. The part-timer and the manager who used to work at the previous store noticed me and tried to help. But I stopped them. I, a middle school graduate, can't make all the employees quit. Why not ask them why they quit? Well, you can figure it out without asking. The part-timers nodded in agreement with my words. Shall I tell you if you don't understand? You look down on us because of our educational background. And the manager doesn't understand anything, only talks. No one wants to work part-time while experiencing power harassment. When I said that, the president's wife raised her voice again. Power harassment? Are you trying to frame me without any evidence? The moment the president's wife tried to grab me, the manager intervened. Can you please stop doing that to our part-timers? The manager's position would be compromised by saying such a thing to the president's wife. I was about to say I'm fine, but the manager said firmly, I am the manager of this store, and it's my job to protect the employees. I'll fulfill my role, whether you're the president's wife or not. Then applause came from the other part-timers. The president's wife finally lowered her hand that was trying to grab me. I took a deep breath, took out my smartphone, and said, I have evidence of power harassment. The president's wife glared at me. I played a video. It showed the president's wife yelling at another part-timer at the previous store for no reason. And it wasn't just one or two instances. The president's wife's face changed color. Then, the other part-timers came forward. Among them was a video of me being insulted for being a middle school graduate. At that time, we had conspired to collect evidence if anyone was experiencing power harassment from the president's wife. We didn't go so far as to file a lawsuit, but the videos were shared among part-time friends, so we had several at hand. Manager, we're going to sue her. When I said that, the other part-timers and the manager nodded. Naturally, the president's wife was furious with the manager. What's wrong with you? Do you think it's okay to say that to me? You're fired. Fired. Hearing that, I looked at the president's wife and laughed. Oh, I recorded that too, so we'll protect the manager who protected us. Hearing this, the president's wife changed her expression again and turned on her heels. It seemed she intended to escape. I called out to her back. There are more important things than education, right? Sometimes your humanity is more important when you enter society. Are you focusing on someone's education because you have a complex about it? The president's wife turned around and said, "How did you know that?" It seemed she had inadvertently admitted it. I laughed, the other employees laughed, and the president's wife, realizing her self-destruction, left at a speed I'd never seen before. After that, we decided to really sue the president's wife. We had videos taken by the part-timers, and the manager, who had been favored by the president's wife, admitted that he had been covering up her power harassment for his own safety, so we had solid evidence. The president's wife couldn't escape, and we were able to receive compensation. Then word spread to other stores, and many similar complaints were raised. The president's wife was sued for compensation, and the president, who found out about her behavior for the first time, was furious and told her to pay it back by working. It is a locally owned supermarket, so the president and his wife's house is also local. When I witnessed the president's wife working angrily at a nearby drugstore, I couldn't help but laugh. Since then, we have been working hard today under a trustworthy manager.
When my husband found out that I couldn't inherit my father's estate, he yelled at me. "What? You can't inherit the property? I have no use for you anymore. I want a divorce right now." After that, I got my revenge on my husband and my sister, who remarried quickly. My name is Julie, and I am a 32-year-old office worker who has been married to Brian for 2 years. I met Brian through a relative's introduction, and we got married. My family was quite wealthy, but since my sister, Mary, and I were the only children, our relatives worried about finding an heir, so they introduced Brian, saying he would be fine as a son-in-law. Although my husband didn't end up becoming an adopted son-in-law, he started living with my family at my parents' house. My mother passed away a few years ago, and now my father, my husband, and I live in our family home. My husband seems very kind and treats my father well, but the relative who introduced him warned me about something right before our marriage. "I know I introduced Brian to you, but be careful. He can be a bit obsessed with money." Even though I was about to get married and had already done the engagement ceremony, I couldn't see any signs of my husband being money obsessed, so we went ahead and got married. Even after we married, I kept an eye on my husband because of the relative's words, but he didn't seem to be obsessed with money. However, he did seem curious about my father's wealth, sometimes casually asking how much property we had when he joined my father for a drink. Since my father didn't hide anything, I didn't worry about it too much. Another thing my husband was interested in was my sister. My sister is 5 years younger than me, and unlike my calm demeanor, she's bright and active and has a flashy social life with men. She doesn't look like me at all, and my husband was surprised when he first saw her. "Your sister is so different from you, Julie, isn't she?" Seeing my husband's fascination by my sister, who is a beautiful woman with striking features, opposed to my plain looks, made me feel a bit uneasy. Still, the reason our relatives introduced me to him was that they were worried I wouldn't get married due to my modest looks and personality, and then there would be no one to carry on our family name. At the time, I thought there was no need to worry since I had a beautiful sister, but I later realized why our relatives were concerned. My father spoiled my sister a lot, letting her go to college after high school and then to a vocational school after graduation. My sister didn't have any specific goals for attending college or vocational school. She just didn't want to work. My mother was strict with my sister, trying to persuade her to find a job after college, but my father insisted on sending her to a vocational school. After graduating from vocational school, my sister got a job at my father's friend's company, but quit after 6 months. I was shocked by the excuse my sister gave when she quit her job. I can't fully use my talents at that company. My sister, who hadn't even worked for half a year, was acting as if she already understood everything about her job, which left my mother and me dumbfounded. However, my father seemed to believe my sister and quickly found her another job. A while after starting her new job, my mother fell ill and was hospitalized. When my mother was in the hospital, my sister visited her every day, taking time off work. In the end, she quit this job as well and started saying she would take care of our sick mother. Taking care, however, only meant being in the hospital room, chatting with our mother, or staring at her smartphone in the waiting room. I had to go get our mother's laundry and replace it with new clothes during her hospital stay, while my sister was of no help at all. Though my mother might have been happy to have someone to talk to, her condition worsened so much after about a month that she could no longer even have a conversation. 2 weeks after her condition worsened, our mother passed away. My father and sister were so shaken by the sudden loss that they couldn't even prepare for the funeral, so I had to do it. Thanks to the help of our relatives, we were able to send off our mother somehow. After our mother's death, my sister started working part-time and moved out of our family home to live alone. Since her part-time income wasn't enough to pay the rent, our father covered the rent and utility bills, and it seemed my sister spent the money she earned on having fun. When her part-time income wasn't enough, she would go to our father and ask for an allowance. When our mother was alive, she had been strict with my sister, so our father didn't give her any allowance after she started working. But now he was giving her as much as she wanted. I thought it was no problem if both my father and sister were happy with that arrangement. Even after I got married and started living with my husband in my family home, my father continued giving my sister an allowance. At that time, I didn't realize that my sister was also asking my husband for money, and he was happily giving it to her. Being unable to say no to my beautiful sister, my husband would secretly give her money, saying, "Don't tell Julie about this. She might get jealous if she finds out." My sister would only work part-time when she felt like it and live off the money she got from our father and my husband. But her carefree lifestyle didn't last forever, as our father fell ill and had to be hospitalized. I took care of our father during my breaks from work, but my sister never showed up at the hospital. Instead, she started calling me and demanding money. "I've been getting money from Dad every month, so I want you to keep giving it to me. The rent and utilities are all being withdrawn from Dad's account after all." She spoke to me angrily, but I was shocked to learn this for the first time. I got angry at my sister, who only cared about her own life instead of worrying about our hospitalized father. I really wanted to hang up on her, but she seemed to be in trouble, so I asked her how much money our father had been giving her every month. "How much have you been getting from Dad every month? Hurry up and get a job so you can live on the money you earn." My sister replied grumpily, "You're so annoying. I've been getting $1,000 a month. That's not including rent and utilities, by the way." I was appalled by my sister, who boasted about the amount she was receiving. I thought that if our father kept giving such a grown-up sister so much money, that she would lose any motivation to work seriously. I didn't think it was much of a problem to give my sister money, since I believed our father would recover quickly. However, our father's condition suddenly worsened, and I hurriedly contacted our relatives. The doctor told me it was a serious situation, and I was deeply shocked. During times like these, I wanted my husband's support, but he rarely showed up to the hospital, saying he was busy with work. Moreover, when he did visit, he would ask me inappropriate questions like, "Your father's inheritance must be huge, right? Since you and your sister are the only heirs, are you going to split it in half?" I had no words to respond to my husband, who only talked about the inheritance. I realized that what the relatives meant when they said my husband was obsessed with money, and felt disgust. When my sister received a call, I explained that our father was in a critical condition, but she only worried about her own finances. "Make sure you pay me my monthly allowance. I can't survive without that money." The call ended abruptly. I was angry at my sister's response, but I was also concerned about the faint male voice I heard on the other end. I recognized the voice and had a bad feeling. About a month later, my father passed away, and neither my sister nor my husband showed up during his last moments. Having experienced my mother's funeral, I realized how heavy-hearted funeral preparations could be. On top of that, neither my sister nor my husband helped at all, and my sister didn't even attend the funeral. My husband did show up at the funeral, but he disappeared immediately afterward, claiming he had work. The relative who introduced me to my husband noticed his absence and asked me about it. "Where's your husband? It's strange for the chief mourner to be absent, isn't it?" All I could do was force a smile and answer, "He seems to be busy with work, so he went back." The relative sighed upon hearing my explanation, and I felt like sighing too. Once the funeral was over and I could finally catch my breath, my husband grinned and asked me, "So, how much did you inherit? Even if you split it in half, you'll get a lot of money, right?" As the relatives had warned before our marriage, my husband seemed to only care about my father's inheritance. Disappointed by my husband's true nature, I gave him an evasive answer. "My sister gets $1 billion and I get 0. We haven't talked to the lawyer yet, and I haven't had time to process my feelings since the funeral just ended." Seeing my husband happily talking about the inheritance, I felt laughing out of anger. Believing my words, my husband yelled, "What? You can't inherit any property? I don't need you anymore. Let's divorce right now." I felt the same way, so I retorted, "Let's do that. You only married me for your father's inheritance in the first place. I'll divorce you." With that, I shoved the prepared divorce papers in front of my husband. As if anticipating this, I took out the divorce papers, which seemed to surprise him a bit, but he signed them anyway. After signing the divorce papers, my husband left the house saying, "I'll divorce you, who gets 0 inheritance, and marry your sister to get the $1 billion. I didn't care, and immediately went to the city hall to submit the divorce papers. I was able to leave my terrible husband. My ex-husband submitted his marriage registration with my sister the very next day. A few days later, my ex-husband called me. Still believing that story, he yelled, "When are you going to start the inheritance procedures? Give Mary her $1 billion already." I had been waiting for my ex-husband to contact me. I didn't want to reach out to him after he left our house. I replied to my ex-husband in a business-like tone, "Let's have a discussion at my place this Sunday. I'm preparing for the procedure and waiting for you." Brian, my ex-husband, was thrilled at the thought of receiving an inheritance and hung up the phone, but I was looking forward to seeing his face when he found out the truth. Over the weekend, my ex-husband and my sister Mary came to our parents' house, and both of them were surprised that I had called a lawyer. However, Brian seemed to convince himself and said, "I guess we need a lawyer when we're inheriting a large amount of the money." Then the lawyer, with a puzzled look, started talking to Brian. "There is a matter of inheritance, but before that, there is a matter of a claim for compensation from Julie, your ex-wife, towards you, Brian." He showed Brian several photos. In those photos, Brian was coming out of Mary's house, and the date was clearly written. The lawyer continued talking to Brian. "Since these are photos proving infidelity before the divorce, you have to pay compensation." When I heard Brian talking about the inheritance over the phone with Mary, I immediately asked the lawyer to investigate Brian's infidelity. Maybe he thought I was too busy with my father's funeral, but Brian and Mary met at Mary's house almost every day, and thanks to that, I was able to get many evidence photos. The conversation about inheritance turned into a conversation about compensation, and both Mary and Brian were speechless. But Brian quickly recovered and retorted, "Compared to the $100 million inheritance, compensation is just a small amount. I'll pay it right away." When the lawyer handed him the compensation claim documents, he signed them easily. After confirming that, I told Brian, "I'll make sure you pay the compensation since you've signed it. But be happy with Mary, who has 0 inheritance." The moment Mary heard 0 inheritance, she screamed, "What do you mean my inheritance is 0? I'm supposed to have 100 million. Brian's face turned red, and he got angry, saying, "There's no way. There's zero inheritance. I won't let you take it all for yourself. The lawyer calmly started explaining to the angry pair. Mary is the daughter of your late mother from a previous marriage, and since she has not been legally adopted by your late father, there is no legal parent-child relationship. Therefore, Mary cannot inherit your father's estate. I also told Mary, who seemed to be confused. I don't think you remember because you were only 1 year old when our parents got remarried, but I remember it clearly. I was 6 years old when our parents remarried, and I remember being happy that I suddenly had a sister. I never thought that such a sister would steal my husband. Both our parents were struggling with young children and had someone mediate between them, thinking it would be best for them to remarry. My mother treated me like her real daughter, and my father treated Mary with care. My father might have spoiled Mary because she was not his real daughter, and he wanted to be extra careful with her. Our parents each had a child when they remarried, and my mother, who was suspected by relatives of marrying my wealthy father for his money, refused to have Mary legally adopted by him. The reason the relatives kept recommending marriage proposals to me was that they knew I was the only one who could inherit my father's estate. If our parents had had a child together, things might have gotten even more complicated, but fortunately or unfortunately, they didn't have any children. They might have decided not to have children to avoid future inheritance disputes. It has now become clear that our father continued to support my sister financially after she became an adult because he couldn't pass on his inheritance to her. I am not legally related to my mother because we did not go through adoption, but it never bothered me in daily life. It seemed our parents never told my sister that they were both remarried, and she found out the truth for the first time that day. My ex-husband's face changed from red to pale as soon as he realized the situation. He signed the documents and was even asked to pay for damages when he couldn't get the inheritance he had been expecting from my sister. With a blue face, my ex-husband said to me, "Was what you said about my sister getting $10 billion and me getting nothing a lie?" Holding back laughter, I said, "Of course it was a lie. It was to get back at you for cheating on me behind my back. Besides, there's no way Dad's inheritance was worth $10 million. Even our wealthy father didn't have an inheritance of $10 million. My sister, who had been silent until now, suddenly screamed, "I've made a lot of purchases relying on Dad's inheritance. What will happen to the money he used to give me? Will you pay for me, big sister?" I answered my frightened sister. "You have a reliable husband now, so you don't need it anymore, right? Have Brian support you." My sister looked at my pale-faced ex-husband, but he shook his head. "I also have made various purchases expecting the inheritance. So I don't have the means to support you. Besides, I have to pay for damages, so I'm barely managing myself." After saying that, my ex-husband suddenly knelt down in front of me and started apologizing. "Julie, I'm sorry. It was my fault. Will you forgive me and take me back?" The lawyer, who had been watching, laughed while packing up to leave. His arrogant attitude from earlier was gone, and he looked ridiculous kneeling down. After the discussion, my ex-husband and sister left with their heads down, and they soon got divorced. For my ex-husband, who remarried with the intention of inheriting my sister's assets, he was no longer interested in her when she didn't receive the inheritance. He told me he couldn't take care of my sister because he had to pay me damages. Since my ex-husband had no property, we agreed that he would pay the damages in installments from his monthly salary. The lawyer advised that this way I wouldn't miss out on anything. My sister, now without our father's support, worked part-time every day, but she couldn't pay off her debts and ended up filing for bankruptcy. She eventually had to leave her apartment, and no one knows where she went. Our father had supported my sister out of love, but in the end he spoiled her too much, and she became unable to work seriously. Later, a relative tried to introduce me to a potential marriage partner again while I started living alone in my childhood home, but I declined. I don't want to be introduced to someone like my ex-husband again, so this time I want to find a suitable marriage partner on my own.